Welcome to Talk Design Podcast, the space where creativity meets conversation. I'm Adrian Ramsay, your host, and as someone deeply entrenched in the world of design, I'm thrilled to introduce you to the minds that inspire me in the hope that they will spark something special within you too. From a design past crafting women's swimwear to pushing the boundaries of performance sportswear, from mountaineering to international yachting, to implementing systematic innovation solutions that transcend boundaries in aerospace industry. My heart remains rooted in architecture, and exploring the emotional tapestry woven by built spaces is my fascination. My journey in design has been what can only be described as a life of design. I want to thank you for lending me your ears. I'm eager to embark on this next episode together. My guest on Talk Design today is Brian Johnson from Synergy 360. Now, Synergy 360 is, well, it's a really interesting company. And the reason it's a really interesting company is because Brian's such an interesting guy. So they are general contractor builders. And with that, they are deeply rooted in building biology. So Brian's gig that we're going to talk about today is health and wellness, and creating homes and environments for people that are about their health and wellness, as well as the planet's health and wellness, while all these things come together. Hence the name Synergy 360. I mean, how could you get it wrong? Brian, welcome to Talk Design. We've had an amazing chat already, and we probably should have recorded everything, but we're not. We're recording from now.
Adrian, super awesome to be here. Yeah, we would have had 2 hours of probably footage already.
Exactly,
but we were going way out there talking about UFOs and things like that. So
I won't do that again.
Yeah. But that was a great intro. Synergy, so originally I was doing a lot of energy work at the time, and I was doing a lot of meditation, and I was going out into nature and, finding that inspiration of what's this next best thing going to look like. I've been in the general construction world for 23 years. That's my career. And I'm like, nah, I'm going to come back into the world with something different, something unique. And I'm like, it's synergistic, it's building materials all coming together synergistically. It's a collective, it's people, it's this whole synergistic approach. But in reality, it was because I was doing all of this energy work. It's like, why did I name it SENERGY instead of SYNERGY? Because it's source energy, right? And I love Star Wars and, Yoda and, it's always talking about, energies all around us. And so believe it or not, there was a little bit of inspiration with Yoda behind all that too.
So, are you Yoda? If you
No,
had to be a Star Wars character, who
dude,
would you be?
I'm Luke Skywalker, man, because I'm training under the masters.
I love it. I love it. Hey, isn't that the truth as well? So I want to jump all the way back. You've got some kind of origin story that somewhere, for some reason, you chose to put your talents into building and being a builder.
Yeah.
Was your dad a builder or something? What got you into this, like from a kid? When did you even realize that it was something that happened?
Thanks for taking me way back, you know? Um, because my dad, he was in the CIA of all things, but he was a rancher too. His background was
Right.
ranching. And so they were always moving and building properties, and it was around horses and ranching. And so he was always building pole barns and,
Yeah.
everything, right? And so and it was nothing, no architecture involved or whatever. It was just
Put
they
them
would
up.
go and they'd go cut logs out in the forest back in the good old days, and they'd come back and just construct things. And that's what he did, so it
Mm.
was a lot of ingenuity.
Mhm.
And it was just always intrigued, always out there helping, so he wasn't a builder. There was really no building background, but it was just basically, it was all out of necessity,
Yeah.
right? And just being ingenuity, just putting a lot of ingenuity into everything that we were doing. And so I just always loved it. I always loved building things. Always loved Earth, and I know we'll be
Yeah.
talking about that too. But I was, probably most of us kids did that, but I would dig holes it was always about digging
Hmm.
holes and then going sideways and,
Hmm.
building tunnels. And, I was
Hmm.
always into, digging. I
Yeah.
love, and I'm sure they weren't, to code. I'm
Yeah.
sure, it's amazing that we're all alive. We didn't have seatbelts, growing up, so here we're digging holes and tunnels and, they could have caved in at any time, but still alive,
It's
and it's,
funny you say that, eh? Like I I I grew up with my dad. My dad's a fine artist, and but he was, always building rock walls and, things around our property.
yeah,
And as I grew up as a kid, and we had quite steep banks that we used to walk down 36 stairs to enter the front door because it dropped down so much. But so we had these terraces, and I used to dig tunnels into the terraces. And my dad's like, "Man, you're gonna die if you crawl into those things.
yeah.
Crawling backwards so your head's sticking out, would you?" Like, but isn't it interesting? Like that same thing. And we'd go to the beach,
Yep.
and maybe it's a boy thing. Maybe it's just a boy
I was
thing.
gonna
I
say
would
maybe
tunnel.
maybe it's a boy thing, but
Yeah.
it was again, just with dad always building things and
Hmm.
digging holes. So really that was really the inspiration. Big, building dog houses and
Yeah. Yeah.
so I wish I could say that I had this big career and family lineage of building all of these homes. No, it doesn't quite look like that for me.
Well, I think the
But
thing
the
is
passion and the drive was there, I
yeah,
think it was definitely born and put on this world to do something around healing,
yeah.
and healing can look, you have, energetic healers, and we have all kinds of different practitioners out there, and everybody's healing experience looks so completely different, right? And so later in life, as I go through all of this, all the traumas and all the figuring of things out, you realize you're like, man, you're just paving the path of what it looks like for you to bring a healer to bring your medicine, to the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you clearly didn't have that as like as a kid, as a boy. Somewhere you were going to school and you weren't too worried about healing everybody or healing anything. You're just worried about having fun and causing trouble, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then later on, it was about healing myself from all the traumas and all the stuff,
Right.
definitely. Right. And I think that's really kind of where it stemmed from too, because it's like I wanted community, a little bit of
Hmm.
a broken family, we all
Hmm.
have our stories, right? So,
Hmm.
but I think I always wanted family, wanted community, and wanted to help others, right? That's what I've always wanted to do. So, kind of fast forwarding, of course, we're kind of following our career, and one thing's leading to the next, and the path is unfolding. We just, maybe we see it early, maybe we don't. I saw my path a little bit later on because finally it's like here I am, 52,
Yeah.
still looking at it, going, "Wow, everything was
Yeah.
just unfolding. I just never saw it, and here
What do
we
you
are."
what are you going to do with the next 52 years?
Well, it's just going to keep getting better. So now here we are at the kind of like at the pinnacle, if you will, really.
Hmm.
We're in an industry where health and wellness is meeting building and design, right? And so that's where I'm really dabbling and having fun. And so it's like building these homes that actually by the way, we're talking about coining different phrases and things
Yeah.
like that. One of my, I've had all kinds of myself, but I was like, the home becomes the modality, and
Yeah,
so
right.
so for me, that's kind of something that I'm kind of like grabbing onto, because why not? Like, because growing up, being into the biohacking community and the health and wellness industry, everyone's talking about all these amazing technologies, red light
Hmm.
therapies
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
indoor air quality and non-toxic, materials and so on and
Hmm.
so forth, right? And so I'm like, why shouldn't the home be that way? The home
Yeah.
should be that way, right?
Yeah.
Just like you were talking about building wellness centers and, a gym, or, cold plunges, or, saunas, or whether they're dry saunas or infrared saunas, like that should become part of the home, right? And I like that you were sharing that too, because like the spaces is kind of built around that, you know?
Yeah, well, this is an interesting thing, isn't it? Like, you said before about community, that um you had a hankering or a
Yeah.
journey to take you towards community.
Yeah.
And It's I find it really interesting that when we look in a home, um, and having designed heaps of them, you look in a home and you go, where are the points of community in a home? And
Yeah.
usually it's around the food, it's around the kitchen.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Like the
and
blue zones.
yeah, and
Yeah.
one of the things that certainly has shifted in the last, well, I'd say 10 years, is that it's around health and fitness in the home and the number of
Mm-hmm.
home gyms and now the sauna, the ice plunge, the whatever it is, this pushing of it, like they're pushing that envelope up, and people like Wim Hof, who once would have been,
Yeah.
just a crazy man that is now celebrated.
He's a
Um,
legend, you
yeah,
know.
and he is a legend. This is the thing. He is actually living that legendary thing. And then you
Yeah.
get, there's in every aspect, we have this new era of what I will call self-control. And it's not self-control and, oh, I'm losing my shit and I've got to control myself. It's self-control of the environment I'm
Yeah.
in and how does it nurture me or allow me to have a better health span and a
How do you
better
optimize
life.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's self-control is not I'm out of control. It's how do I,
Self-optimization. Yeah.
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 And
Yeah.
this is like a trend that we're seeing. And as the, like while we're recording now, the world is kind of out of control. There's, a whole bunch of wars
It's a
going
lot of
on.
chaos. Yeah.
There's a lot of chaos right now. If you
Yeah.
just look around the planet, there's a lot of discontent in financial systems and in,
Yeah.
borders,
Mm.
and there's a lot of
Mm.
protectionism. And with that, people are probably realizing that they are the center of their own universe. And in them being the center of their own universe, they actually have to put their own boundaries around it.
Yeah.
They have to put some, not physically, mentally, definitely, and
Yep.
some physically. I look in architectural trends, we have more brutalism showing up in architectural trends. It is softened and feminized and stuff, but there's
Mm-hmm.
more brutalism showing up, which is generally a trend that comes from people not having control. They want a fortress, they want somewhere to
Yep.
be that's
Mm.
safe and all the
Interesting.
rest. This is
Mm.
what happens
Yeah.
as we draw self-control around ourselves.
Interesting.
What have we got
Yeah.
control over? Can we control our food supply better? Can we, you think back in the, it must have been what, the 60s or 70s maybe? You had all the nuclear preppers, for the,
Oh yeah.
they were
Oh,
building
yeah.
bunkers. We're
Yeah.
back. That's back, man. They're
That was
just not,
The Cold War era for
yeah,
sure. I mean, that carried all the way into the 80s, early
yeah,
80s.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's back. That's
Yep.
back. People are going, it's different, but it's
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
It's like, how do I supply my own water? How do I supply my own electricity? How do I supply my own food, And then they're happy. This is the piece, this is the kicker. They're still uneducated heavily in the area of what is this home or fortress or whatever it is they've got, what is that actually doing to
Yeah.
enhance my health?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And is it taking from me or is it giving to me?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we're here talking,
Yeah.
because we
Yeah.
want to be on the giving side.
You just okay, you said what does the next 50 years look like, right? It's really kind of expanding out into this kind of
Hmm.
a communal space, right? Um, okay, great. We're building healthy homes, the homes modality. We have people that have the money that can afford that are into, like you talked about, the longevity
The
span
health
versus
span.
the
Yeah.
health span, right? A lot of people are jumping into that. And that's great,
Hmm.
because the clients can afford this is definitely a huge contribution into what we're all kind of creating together. Okay, it's perfect, right? Because then we can scale it down and make it more affordable as time and more
Hmm.
mainstream, if you will,
Hmm.
and change the building industry, right? But I kind of really see. kind of like you were saying some things that sparked me as far as like being off the grid,
Hmm.
having being more self-sustainable, self-supporting, but community because we can't do it alone, right?
No
And
man's an
so,
island.
right, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's like we bring people in, so that's kind of where I see the doors starting to open up now as far as like these different foundations and different ways of like we talk about trust and
Mm.
putting things into trust and how we're managing everything. But let's look at it as a community and how we're building and look at being like completely off the grid and fully sustainable. How cool would that be? So it gets beyond just the home. It's creating our own municipalities, right? Our own water and,
Yeah. Yeah.
electric and,
Which is how the country grew anyway.
yeah,
That was
yeah,
how it grew. It
yeah,
started
it
that
did.
way.
Yeah.
Um, and then,
It was a trend.
yeah, exactly. At some
We're
point, it was a trend.
retrending.
Well,
Hey, now we're putting in wells. We're just using very sophisticated equipment to be able to bring up higher pressures, so we just don't
yeah,
have to pull up a bucket out of a well.
yeah. It's so interesting, isn't it? Like we can't the things that we can't ignore as human beings is we can ignore them, but it works against us if we do.
Yeah.
We can't ignore nature and the forces of nature. You know, the wind, the air, the quality of the air, the quality of water, the trees, the noises, the sounds, all these things that we get out of
Yeah.
being born onto this planet. We
Hmm.
can't ignore those. They actually control us. We don't control them. We've been spending the last, I don't know, probably 200 years trying to push them around. Um,
Yep. Hmm.
and for the most part, made a mess of that en masse,
Definitely.
and so
On a
you,
global scale.
yeah, absolutely. And so you go back to that thing that you said about healing, and I'm going to come back to that point. I'm going to mark that the healing piece. But then the other
Yeah.
thing that we can't ignore is our need for love and human connection and
Yeah.
community.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so that's critical to our species for how it is anyway.
Hmm.
Um, and then we've got to cohabitate with not just other humans, we've got to cohabitate with animals as well, with
Hmm.
nature, what they bring, because,
Yeah.
go back to Seinfeld's Bee movie. This thing's a broken chain. You break this
Yeah.
chain, and if you break it, everything falls apart. And so protect the chain, and
Yep.
if we start looking at these things of how do we do this better, not just better, how do we do it really well? It
Hmm.
takes pioneers like you to push into the space to go, well, I'm going to stand on this piece. I'm going to stand here and I'm going to go, this is what happens. And uh, for the listeners, there's a journey that got Brian and I to talk, which is an interconnected journey that, for my part, came from the podcast. So
Hmm.
this must be year 6 coming up for the podcast. Um, in that journey, I met the first point was Zara Dakota with
Yep.
her Healthy Homes. And from Zara, then that took me to meeting Paula Baker-Laporte. My
Hmm.
interest in my study and my total, commitment to education of understanding design better and how things can be built better for
Yep.
my clients had me introduced into Texas, which was I stumbled across that myself into
Mm.
Texas, and then from that I met the people like we were saying before, Matt Risinger. I met Matt,
Yep.
and then I met
Yep.
some other great, amazing architects, and started this sort of journey. And then
Yeah.
it was actually Matt Risinger that he's responsible for my podcast.
Oh
So
yeah?
I was just telling Matt this the other day. So I've known him for years now. I was saying to him the other day, man, you were responsible for my podcast. And he goes, why is that? And I said, well, I didn't have a podcast, and but I knew I wanted to get to know um, different architects and people who inspired me better. And I didn't have a
Yeah.
vehicle for it. So I was in
Hmm.
Austin and I was going to the Austin Homes tour. And
You're
in
creating
doing,
your community, by the
yep,
way.
this is what I
Yeah.
was doing. And I'm going to the homes tour. I'm talking to different architects and I chatting to a couple of them. And I said, hey, I'd love to just come past your studio and interview you. And they were like,
This was
interview
Matt.
me.
Yeah.
No, that I did this with
Oh,
some
the
architects.
architects. Okay.
Yeah, and one of them was an architect called Hugh, and he had a house on the homes tour that was going to be open. I walk in, and I was traveling with a buddy of mine. I walk in, and my buddy, I knew who Matt Risinger was, but I didn't know. I hadn't watched a whole lot. I'd watched a couple of things, and not really gone in deep and
Well,
dug
you're in
in.
Australia anyways. It's like,
Yeah.
what are these guys doing over there in the US?
Well, my
With all
buddy
this
though,
building science stuff.
my buddy was deep into the building science thing, and he goes, "Oh, that's Matt Risinger like this," and I said,
Yeah,
"Oh yeah,
there you go.
that's Hugh," and I said, "I'm going to go and meet him."
Uh,
So I said to Matt, "Matt, I would love to." I'd already interviewed Hugh. I said, "Matt, I'd love to interview
Perfect.
you," and he goes,
Awesome.
"Well, you've got a podcast or something, don't you?" And I went, "Yeah." Like this, and I walked away and went, I don't have a podcast. Shit. What am I? How am I going to do this? And then COVID hit, and I went
Uh-huh.
start the podcast. And
Okay.
and then this journey goes on.
2020 was a pivotal year for a lot of people
Yeah,
for
well,
whatever
it
reason.
gave people time to change things. Um, I saw Mercedes on Instagram talking about bulletproof rammed earth,
Mm.
and that sparked my interest. Then Zara and I talked about it, and then from that I interviewed Mercedes. From that I ended up meeting Michael and Joss from Firewall. I interviewed them, and then I met Andrea Keller from that. And of course, you're just another cog in this wheel that
Uh-huh.
spins with
Yes.
all these people that are creating this
Yeah.
massive wellness
Yeah.
intelligence that's
Yeah.
happening and
Yeah.
and forefronting it for people's health and community health.
Yeah, it's interesting too, right? Because this cog in this wheel that we all are, it's like we're all interconnected. Every
Yeah.
name that you brought up, and you're out there. Of course, you got your podcast, and you're gonna make, hey, Matt. You're watching the show. Hey,
Yeah.
can't
Hey, Matt.
hey, Adrian's gonna make the connection here because we got some really cool things coming. We're
Yeah.
taking the world of science and health, and we're combining that together. But
Well,
Paula Baker.
that's the next step. That is the
That is
next piece.
that's where we're at.
That's it. That Yeah, I mean, you were a pioneer, so that means you've got to walk the miles on your own and
Uh,
beat the drum.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and you get a few
You
along the
have to
way.
live
You're
it.
collecting
You
people. Yeah.
yeah. You got to really, I think, to really kind of speak to it and being a pioneer, you have to live
Hmm.
a lot of aspects of that,
Hmm.
right? And then to do our due diligence and paying that forward is now teaching it, right? And
Yeah.
advocating it so being just one builder, and this can open up into what the Healthy Building Alliance is going to be about, because I'm like, look, I'm one builder. Sure, I know how to network. Somehow the universe guides me to the right people, like Paula Baker-Laporte, she's, I believe, since retired from EcoNest architecture,
Uh-huh.
right, of like 40 years.
Yeah.
Very well-known architect in the health and wellness space, right? Um, she mentored Zara and I both at different times. But Paul is definitely a big mentor. Has been
Hmm.
a huge mentor for me even on a spiritual level, right?
Hmm.
Um, and she, of course, I think this term was coined. I don't know if she coined it or if it was Building Biology Institute, but nature's the gold standard. So I kind of wanted to bring that back because,
Oh, I
like you
like
said, it's
that. Yeah.
nature, right?
Yeah.
Nature, I use it all the time because it's the truth.
Yeah.
Nature is the gold standard. We can build for health, and we can mimic health. We can mimic the biology in a home as close as we can, but it's never going to be
It's
nature,
still,
right?
yeah,
You still have to get out. Like, we can get into some really geeky topics, and I can go pretty far down each one because, again, I'm in the health and wellness industry, water filtration and the levels of filtration and the types of filtration. But then I go beyond that, structuring water,
hmm
and how
hmm
we're structuring water and how it comes into its raw natural form and how it goes through its whole evolutional process, right? That's just, lighting,
yeah,
nanometer wavelengths, and, you got short wavelengths, you got tall wavelengths, and how we're trying to mimic that indoors versus, outdoors. And everyone's like, well, hey, you're not, in order to get that full spectrum light, you're gonna have to go outdoors, or in order to get that structured water from an artesian aquifer, you're gonna have to go right to the source in the mountains, right? So, my goal is, how do we mimic that? Really, because I get into the geeky sciencey stuff, right? And
yeah,
so that's really kind of what led me on the forefront of creating something pretty unique, because I was in the commercial industry, and commercials way ahead of,
hmm
residential
hmm
building, right?
hmm
Leaps and bounds. And so I did a lot of, I was in the commercial building industry too as well. And I'm like, well, they're using it over here, but over in this, they don't even talk about it. And people that don't even understand construction doesn't even, that they don't even know that exists, you
yeah,
know?
wow,
And
yeah.
so for me, I just made that connection right away when I formed Synergy 360 and I came into it, right? I'm like, man, this has been around for a long time. It's like, I'm not reinventing anything. This is just using the
You,
commercial industry. And during COVID, by the way, that was kind of a transitional point, believe it or not, like air
ah,
filtration and air
yeah,
systems and
yeah,
lighting systems, and these manufacturers, they were catering to, like, kind of like the higher end luxury, you know,
commercial,
commercial, but also too in the high end residential.
yeah,
But even luxury home building was a disconnect from kind of like your mainstream building too, right?
right.
And so a lot of these materials that trickled in from the commercial world into the high-end luxury, world, where all of a sudden after 2020 became, a lot of these materials became readily available in
Do you,
pretty much mainstream construction. So just in the last 5 years, I've witnessed leaps and bounds of, now we actually have access to a lot of these amazing technologies, for
do you
just
think that
typical residential construction.
that one of the big changes there, obviously, like, um, is companies trying to gain market share, and so back when if you consider pre-COVID, um,
Mm-mm.
if you were doing the research and development, all the cost spending on creating these incredible systems. I used to like train people in high-end problem solving, innovation, like
Mm.
companies like Boeing and Airbus and people like
Awesome.
that. So,
Uh-huh.
but with it, one of the things that you become aware of is that in when you look at how patents are done, like so a patent gets written, there is usually multiple authors to a really powerful patent. It's not a single person's name. It doesn't just say Brian Johnson, he did this. There's usually a collaborative approach that creates a really powerful patent. And with that, I had no idea of that at the time, but then that shows like it takes finance, takes money to do
Hmm.
this research and development. And
Yeah.
so then it takes a bigger
Yeah.
company, and a bigger company doesn't want to they want to be B to B. They don't want to be B to C.
Yeah.
They want a B to B transaction, big business to big business,
Yeah.
because there's volume and they're scalable. They can
Yeah.
scale up. Whereas you get B to C, and suddenly you're dealing with mum and pop in 1,000 things, and the resources that it takes to do that goes really high. So they look for B2B opportunities, and then B2B then goes, oh, do we have an opportunity to go to B2C at a lower level rather than B2B again? So
Yeah.
building supply to builder. But it to drive the marketplace, we need mum and pop to go, whoa. I want that. And this is the wellness thing that shifted.
It was COVID for sure because there was I don't I obviously that plays a role in this, but I think it's even kind of bigger because it was kind of reshaping, how these manufacturers were selling and promoting the
Mm-hmm.
products, really. They
Mm-hmm.
already had the product, right? They're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, well, wait, now we can now we can make a real push into the residential world because now people are all of a sudden worried about indoor air quality."
Yes.
you know
Yes.
and kind of, and this is, and here we'll throw a shout out to Matt here with the
Yeah.
Build Show, like,
Yep.
because he was already doing that. He was into performance building and building science. That's kind of like his background, right?
Uh-huh.
Performance building, which
Mm-hmm.
evolved into like understanding more building science, right? But I believe with a lot of the groundwork that he was doing, along with COVID, basically just kind of all of a sudden the world,
Accelerated.
all of a sudden accelerated. Like now we're talking about, like, it was like overnight, right after COVID, like talking about energy recovery
Mm-hmm.
ventilators, or
Mm-hmm.
natural, ventilation strategies.
Yeah.
No one was talking about that. Like it wasn't even a thing. And then
Yeah.
right after COVID and today of where we're at, like everybody's talking about ERVs and natural passive airflow, and they're even changing the building codes here in the US for like natural airflow, right? So there was definitely a big switch in 2020. Let me give another example on how I think a lot of companies just didn't, they were just marketing to a very specific kind of a group. And now
Yeah.
with this health and wellness, as we're evolving and this coming to the forefront, for me, like, I just have a knack for like kind of making discoveries because I go deep. My background, I was building
A
building
little
biology before I
obsessive.
knew the,
A little
oh yeah, yeah,
obsessive.
type
Yeah.
A, by the way, my background's Ironman, and like, what is it going to take to get on the podium, which really, so I kind of got into this a little bit for my own selfish reasons because I wanted to build that home that I could heal and recover.
Yeah.
Yes, I didn't have any, history of chronic illness or environmental exposure. Well, actually, I did, if we
Yeah.
decide to go down that path, but it was only because it was being exposed to all of the chemicals and toxins and mold from being on project sites and whatnot, right? Through years and years and years. But anyways, I'm like, no, I want to build a house that can perform as that modality so I can recover and get on the podium quicker and recover faster so I could keep training more, train.
Yeah. Right.
But since I've kind
So,
of digressed from a lot of, but anyways, back to the whole research. So I was building what I felt was building biology only because in the residential world, they were looking at circadian lighting systems
mm-hmm.
for,
Mm-hmm.
the crossover of LED into the commercial realm, phasing out fluorescent lighting, and
Yeah.
right, and the inception of LED, and LEDs it's very advanced, okay? And I'm an
It's come a
advocate for
long
it.
way too.
It's, guys, it is like, people, you're watching
Yeah.
this podcast, I'm the first one to advocate it. It's a type of LED system, or it's a type of manufacturer that you're working with, because they have chipsets now and different diodes for every spectrum wavelength you can imagine.
Yeah.
They've been using it in commercial growing for, the last 30 years because, metal halide and sodium vapor and all of these different, I mean, they were consuming so much energy, right? And so we had to make the shift somewhere as the population kept growing. Anyways, kind of fast forwarding, I understood the commercial industry from a circadian aspect, for
Right.
hospitals and
Yeah.
like wellness, like they were already ahead back then, on
It was already
tunability.
happening.
They were already doing it for tunability, for calming patients, and different hospitals, or different applications, right, for
Mm-hmm.
calming people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that was the first thing. I'm like, all right, when I come back into the building industry, I'm just going to use commercial lighting. you know
I'm gonna
um,
bring this with me.
I'm bringing this with me, and that's what I did. I was building my first homes, or I was talking big on circadian lighting, right? Well, as that evolves, and I go deep into the building biology world, again, that type A kind of mentality is like, I have to understand how to use oscilloscopes, and I've got to understand this meter and have that meter, and I have to go deep into it. And by the way, Building Biology Institute, their EMRS course, it goes deep it geeks out deep into it, and it was kind of a lot of information actually, but it was cool because as I was able to digest this, I could understand while I'm doing all this deep research that took me into the science behind all those things. And so, for example, there was one lighting company, call it just luck, whatever, but it was a company called Color Beam. They're manufactured out of Canada.
Yeah.
They're based out of Canada, and so Color Beam, they had this whole infrastructure that was completely Cat 6 cable, 100% low voltage, 48 volt DC, and they had these very high end linear drivers and power adapters where basically you'd have your 110 source coming in, boom, you plug in your adapter, and then the whole infrastructure would branch out through the home on a low voltage infrastructure, including
Wow.
all of their switches.
Yeah.
Everything was. So I was like, well, this is interesting. It's literally like a zero EMF system. It's a flicker free system, and they were specializing in circadian lighting already. They were way ahead of their time. Matter of fact, there was a gentleman, Sean Kane, out of Australia, that they hired. He's a circadian biologist.
Oh,
This is
really?
going back 6 years ago. Yeah, that they hired to come up with the right spectrum chipset for what they refer to as their Hecka light, which is their
Yeah.
circadian light. So they were doing this, but when they started bringing this to their world in the lighting, these big lighting shows and
Yeah.
conferences, they started. This is funny. They said, Brian, it's funny you're talking about it now. 6 years ago, people would walk out of our conferences because they just wanted
They
to
had
know
no idea what was going on.
they're like, what is all of this crap, man?
Yeah.
Like health and
Yeah.
wellness and lighting,
Yeah.
and I was like, you guys were just so far ahead of your time, and we all laugh about it today. But however, I asked them, I said, hey, why, I thought it was very intentional. I'm like, you guys have this lowest, there's no system out there that matches them. I'll say this on the podcast,
Yeah.
challenge me, go look, go do your own
Well, if you
research,
can find one, let us know.
and please,
Let
yeah,
let us
I
know.
mean,
Like,
yeah, I mean, because
yeah.
of course, I didn't even, I thought I was a building biology, and then come to find out there was a building biology institute that's been around since the 50s, and I still didn't find them.
I I
Um,
think that the thing, like you're saying, like if somebody wants to go and understand, go and look up the Color Beam Company,
yeah,
look at
yeah,
what
go
they
look them
can
up.
do, and
But what?
then if you can find somebody who does something the same, similar, or
Yeah,
better, get in
yes,
touch, man. Get in
yeah,
touch.
yeah.
Let us
No,
know. We want
yeah,
to talk to
exactly.
them. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
this is about community. It's about
yeah.
growing this. Yeah.
So,
Awareness.
but it's a funny story though, just to kind of finish out the story. So I said, hey, did you guys intentionally do this for a low EMF application? They're like, Brian, we don't even know what an EMF is. Like, what are you talking about? And it's just a
Yeah, don't
funny
worry about
story.
that. Yeah.
And so I'm like, yeah, but you guys used all 48 volt DC. No one does that. Not even Ketra, Lutron, all these high
Yeah.
end fixtures and things like that. It's they do at the source, but still you got to pull electrical cable to the light still.
Yeah.
This is 100% 48 volt, right? And so they said, no, no, we knew that we could run power through the 48 volt power of the light. It was just easier for the low voltage guys. And I'm like, yeah, but what about the drivers? They don't put out any dirty electricity and all the. I'm geeking out with this stuff, right? They're like,
So
well, we just didn't want to have any interference because we deal with a lot of high-end audio, so we just didn't want interference from this, onto the audio system, So like we did it that way. But if you look at it from a building biologist perspective,
it's
they literally
perfect.
checked all the boxes. Yeah, so
So
it's you
then,
got to know what you're looking for.
so then tell me this, like, so that people that are listening, that are going, what the hell is he talking about with EMF? Um,
Yeah, oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's
well, there
right.
will be people that are doing this. There will be people saying, well, what
It's
is that?
it's a thing, by the
It's
way.
a thing, yeah. But with it, can you explain it for people? But start with the health effects that having a high EMF environment
Yeah,
causes for
yeah,
humans. So people listening,
yeah,
ask yourself, do you have any of these kind of symptoms, feelings, whatever? And then could EMFs be the amount of EMF that you're living in, could that be part of the cause of what's happening? So take it from the, I want you to
Yeah.
kind of heal it backwards. So
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
go for it, man.
Yeah. So, so we have, and again, thanks to the Building Biology Institute, they opened up the door to what's called the Bio Initiative Report. And,
Hmm.
Zara even knows this. Any building biologist knows this because it's the Bio Initiative Report is a group of scientists and doctors that have been working on understanding the impacts of EMF. Okay, and just real quick, EMF is just a broad term for electromagnetic frequencies.
Hmm.
Okay, there's four forms, and not to geek out and lose everybody here, but you have your standard, electrical line voltage coming into the house.
Hmm.
Standard, can't get away from it unless you want to run a lantern. Then you got to
Yeah.
focus on indoor air quality if you're using kerosene. Just kidding. Or
Whale oil.
or yeah, exactly. Your toxic,
Yeah.
fragrant candles. Um,
It's, don't
um,
go down that rabbit hole yet. Yeah.
but then you have magnetic uh, AC magnetic frequency, which is I'm not an engineer, but I call it the byproduct of the electricity coming to the home. It's when you start separating your common and your hot and your common wires. It creates this electromagnetic field.
Yep.
Motors, windings around
Yep.
refrigerators, around your HVAC equipment, even little power supplies, the high
Yeah.
tension power lines
Yep.
outside the home, the
Yep.
transformers. What these do is they're just sources of electromagnetic frequencies. Okay, that's another form. You have another one that's real common today. We all know this as radio frequencies with our
Hmm.
cellular devices and cell towers and your wireless routers and baby monitors and all these wireless devices in the home. Okay, and then you have another one. It's a kind of an up and coming thing that a lot of people are talking about now, and it's dirty electricity,
Hmm.
which is also referred to as EMI, electromagnetic interference. And what these different technologies do is they basically put out a high wavelength or frequency bandwidth called harmonics. Literally, it's noise, from inverters, for like solar systems or backup, power systems, the
Hmm.
inverters, pumps, pool pumps, that's a big one. Dimmer switches on a wall. And what these technologies do, or even the power supply plug into your computer or whatever,
Yeah.
they put out a lot of this harmonics. Okay, so now that I've talked about that,
So,
so this bio initiative report, basically what they do is they break down all of these different exposures, whether it's magnetic field exposures, the link to childhood leukemia, right? The blood clotting, and the change of formation and mutation of red blood cells from high frequency radio exposure RF, right?
hmm.
Um, Exposures just to electricity in general, as far as like if you're sleeping next to an outlet or if you're next to an electrically charged surface, like it basically takes the body out of that homeostasis, right? So the body never really gets that chance to kind of relax. Not saying that that's the culprit, but it keeps the body from being able to get to that place of homeostasis, back to that whole nature is kind of the gold standard,
Yeah.
right? Um, so it's really so in these reports, the World Health Organization, that's a big one, right? They
Hmm.
they talk about they talk like it's out there. The information is out there, and the direct correlation of of the symptomatic as far as like, the headaches or tinnitus,
Oh,
you
really?
know, brain
Tinnitus?
fog. Yeah.
Brain fog?
Yeah.
Tell me,
Yeah.
I have tinnitus. Tell me about tinnitus.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if it's,
It's
sleeping with my phone. No, I'm not. I don't
Yeah,
sleep
yeah,
with my
yeah,
phone,
yeah.
but yeah.
Well, and
But
hey, guys, I'm not here to scare anyone or throw a whole fear factor here, but it's just understanding the research and the science, and that's why I
yeah.
went deep into the EMRs through building biology, because even though if you have a Bluetooth device,
Uh-huh.
might not be a high signal, but it does put out a high frequency, right?
Hmm.
I'm just giving just this as an example. So these wireless earbuds,
Hmm.
hey, no judgment, whatever. Once I found out the science behind them, I quit wearing them right away because I wore them. I didn't know,
Yeah.
when they first came out. But anyways, you're putting this high frequency device right into your ear canal, right next to your brain on both sides of it, right? And they do put out a very high frequency, no different than your router in your office. That's a 5G that puts out 2.4 gigahertz, right? It's all frequencies,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the higher those frequencies, the more the biological effect it's going to have, right? So you can imagine that exposure, and it will lead to tinnitus for sure. Absolutely, yeah.
I,
There's all
I
kinds of links to that.
had this thing where I I kind of blamed it on COVID, but or the vaccine more than the COVID. But I noticed vaccine for COVID, the things that I noticed like in the following year was tinnitus. Um,
Hmm.
and I say I noticed it because maybe I had it before but never noticed it. Don't know. But I go, okay, that I certainly got brain fog. Um,
Yeah.
and by the time I got COVID,
Hmm.
I actually caught COVID in America. I was at a conference, but that's where I got COVID. But I'd been double vaccinated before I got COVID.
Mm.
Um, and
That's what that's the one thing that I did skip
yeah,
was the
well,
vaccines.
one of the things that we had was our country was locked down. You couldn't leave
Yeah.
it
It was crazy where
without
you're
it.
at.
And
Yeah.
so I just went, you know what, I'm doing it. I'm
I know
I'm
some people
I'm
that went
definitely
rogue and
leaving.
went into the country in
Yeah.
Australia. And I still haven't seen them.
Yeah. Nobody has. Yeah. But one of the things that I did was uh I at some point there I went I want to I was doing a lot of meditation. I still do, but I was doing a lot of meditation and I had some different meditation, like tapes or tapes, music,
Yeah, audio
and
frequencies.
audio stuff. And
Uh-huh.
so I would jump into bed and I'd go, I'm just going to do this meditation before I go to sleep. Or I would wake up in the morning and I'd go, I'm going to start out by doing this meditation and
Hmm.
have these intentional meditations.
Yeah,
And
love it. I do the
um,
same.
yeah, which I still do them. But what happened is I ended up buying a headset because my wife would want to listen to a different meditation. Um, and so I bought this headset, which was a Bluetooth headset.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And other than a podcast, this is probably about the only time you see me with a headset.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes I will use an earbud if I've got some meeting stuff, but generally, and this is
Yeah.
wired, um, I've found that with the tinnitus,
Hmm.
if I putting things in my ears
Hmm.
is too
Yeah.
intense. And I
Yep.
don't have it while I'm talking to you, of course,
Yeah.
but
Right.
I just go, it's
Yeah.
almost a feeling of like almost a claustrophobic feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the more
Your
tired I
body's
am,
telling you something.
yeah, exactly. So I've been very intentional about shifting that
Yeah.
stuff
It
away.
it it's a real thing. And just to kind of tie it up in a bow again, all
Mm,
these forms of EMFs,
mm.
kind of the whole nature's the gold standard. Okay, well, we
Yeah.
always can't live out in nature, but now it's, creating that healthy space. We're back to it's really simple. It's how we wire the home. It's the
Hmm.
type of wiring system. It's how the system's grounded, right? Like
Hmm.
we're talking pretty basic stuff. Like we're
Yeah,
not
like simple
we're
stuff.
not we're not re-engineering everything. Like we're just identifying, hey, EMF is it's a thing, right? And it's just understanding to distance yourself from that, right? And keep that contained. So hey, if we can wire it to reduce fields, great. If we can distance ourselves at night or put something on a kill switch to like completely kill it at night, like as if you're camping out,
Hmm.
great. Um, if we can hardwire, go back to the basics of hardwiring the whole entire home, which is what we do, for our
Hmm.
Ethernet, for
Hmm.
voice over internet protocol phones, so we can go back and have telephones, our security systems, our cameras, our doorbells, our intercoms, everything on a hardwire infrastructure. Okay.
Yep.
Now, don't get me wrong. If you still want to run that wireless router, again, it's high frequency. We're trying to like minimize the impact and the exposure level. Okay. Hey, I'm running mine full speed right now as we're talking
Yeah.
right here. I'm
Yeah.
not against it, right?
Yeah.
However, I will kill it at night. I will
Yeah.
turn it off at night, and I will go into a silent space. And every home that I build will have full amenities. It'll have full capability of being wireless, but it's how we set up our wireless protocols and how we use our access points and all the wireless access points and how we hardwire them, how we tune them down, and we create a lower emission and exposure rate than your cell phone trying to put out a signal trying to get outside of the home. So it's
Mm.
really understanding and then being able to power down all of these WAPs to where, yeah, hey, you have guests over, they can run it on their end of the home. You're sleeping at night, you prefer not to have it, you can power it down on your end of the home.
Yeah.
We've come a long ways with technology, and it's just understanding how to use all of this technology to benefit and minimize. Literally, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about minimizing the impact of the EMF exposure by having this, and understanding how to do things like this. So it's really simple in the grand scheme of everything.
So, from a design point of view, the ability to understand it and specify it, and then from a builder point of view, having a common conversation and one that is, no, no, we need it wired in this method. Like we
Yep.
do a thing where, let's just say our electricity is coming down, into our space from the ceiling. Let's just say that we're
Hmm.
running our wires through the ceiling. Where are we running those wires? Where is it
Yep.
just across, or where is it running?
Yeah,
And then
where's that main panel? Where's that electrical main panel? Are you
where's
sleeping
all
next
that?
to all of these wires where it's producing? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
It's
I
coordinating with the architect and the designer early on. It's just early design and coordination. You know,
yeah,
we run it through our engineers, do all of our MEPs, give it to our general contractor. He looks at the plan. Okay.
yeah.
He doesn't even know he's building a healthy home, unless we told
That's
him,
it. He
you
just
know?
he just knows this is the way you want it done.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
I think it's so important, and this is, like as I said, explain to people what, electromagnetic fields are, or frequencies are, and so that they get a sense of this is what happens, and the layering of these things in their home can be causing an effect on their health. Well, I grew up,
100%.
I grew up,
It would, and it will too.
it will, yeah. I grew
Yeah.
up under,
Whether we know it or not, if we're super healthy and, like we don't even know, but believe me, it's playing a little role in the background. You just don't know it.
mhm,
And if you're super robust and, you haven't been environmentally compromised, but people that are very sensitive or, it was mold exposure or, it's like, it's just another piece that just adds another layer,
yeah.
onto exposure, right?
Exactly. Your body it's highly adaptable and highly robust. Even
Yep.
even a sensitive body is highly adaptable and highly robust. It's
Mm-hmm.
just how much can you give it?
Yep.
How many
Yeah.
bits how many shots can it take before it falls over? And what we do is we tend to these things are kind of like the hidden enemies, but we can actually do a lot to change them. It's like with the LED
Yep.
lighting thing,
Yes.
that the wavelengths again, that's the wavelengths of light. It's
Yep.
when you get them, how that
Yep.
affects you.
The whole circadian aspect, the
Yeah,
timing, the
yeah,
biological clock.
yeah,
Every
everything.
organ has its own clock system. That's why it's like, sorry to kind of
No,
come right
it's
back in
good,
here,
man.
but on this whole circadian, it's a thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, so everyone's talking about going out again, nature outdoors. It's like, for me as a builder, I just want to simulate. So if I can track, and by the way, like for example, just to bring color beam back in, I didn't really get into the technology, but with their circadian light, it actually, based upon your GPS coordinates and
Hmm.
tracking, the light will automatically adjust the right temperature and wavelength frequency of where that sun is in the
So,
sky.
so why does that matter? For the listeners? I
It's
know
it's
why it
it,
matters,
yeah,
but why
yeah.
does it matter?
Yeah, so it's the whole biological circadian, right? Sun rises, puts out a certain wavelength and temperature, right? High
Hmm.
noon to
Hmm.
the till the evening. And of course, we're all exposed to all of this junk light and the improper frequencies. So what it does is it throws off all of the clocks. It throws off the clocks.
All the
Like I feel
biological clock. Yeah.
100%. Each
Yep.
organ has its own clock system, right? So we're all masking it by being on blue lights and, phones and screens. And, it's getting better. People are starting to clean that up a lot now. But, um, not getting that right spectrum of wavelength to signal through the receptors in the eyes to trigger the body to do certain things. Like this is down to the science. And, so the goal is, with the tracking of that light. So just imagine you hit a switch and you're actually replicating the proper wavelengths of blue light, green light, yellow light,
Yep.
with
For that
some
time of
red
the
light in
day.
there. Yeah, for that time of day, because what it's doing, it's actually suppressing melatonin. And I won't go too far into it, but it suppresses melatonin. It actually activates serotonin, and at nighttime it does the complete opposite, right?
Don't you?
And so these lighting systems actually mimic that.
Yeah.
It's cool.
I love that I'm having this conversation with a GC, not
Yeah.
not some guru of, like doctor or whatever. This is somebody who's actually building your house. This is
Yeah.
somebody who's building the environment to nurture
Yes.
you.
Thank
Um,
you.
Man,
Yeah.
I go, it
It's
is,
crazy.
well, it's fantastic. And look, I'd love to be able to line up 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 or a million builders that could have this conversation.
Yeah.
And if they could, and then we could have that conversation with developers as well, and we could
Yes.
have that
Investors.
conversation with,
The
and then
money on top.
yeah,
Yeah.
the medical industry as well. And you look at this whole thing and you go, this is about, your wellness intelligence. This is the thing. It's like all these pieces are going to be the difference for you in your life. And I just look at even, we could keep going down rabbit holes here, but paint,
And we
paint.
will.
Yeah, and we will. Yeah, yeah, we're both like tunnels.
Yeah.
Yeah, paint, this plasticizing of everything and stuff like this.
The
Um,
resins, the acrylics, the
the acrylic,
urethanes,
yeah, the
Yeah.
silicons, all these things. Just we're layering and layering and layering. And if nature's the gold standard, as Paula would say, then you keep
Mm-hmm.
you keep coming back to that and going, well, how far off the gold standard am I? Oh
Yeah.
shit, I'm way over here. And so how do I
Yeah.
pull this in? Because
Yes.
pulling this in, it might be too late for, what did you say you were, 55 or something?
52.
52. So it might be, sorry, I added a couple of years to you, man. Um, I tell everybody I'm 75, and then they just go, man, you look good for 75. And I say, oh, I'm happy for the compliment. Um, but you
Yep.
you
That's a
think,
way to strategize to wake up to get complimented all through the day.
it
Like,
is.
man, life
Yeah.
is great. I
I
just tell
get
people I'm
those
75. So,
endorphin hits straight out, like I'll take them. Dopamine, put it on. Now, the
yep.
the thing that changes is yes, doing it for yourself, whatever age you are, um, but then doing it for your children that live in
Hmm.
in this environment, and doing it for your friends that come into this environment. And we talk about community. How are we adding these things? So yesterday afternoon, I spent the afternoon on a farm actually, and we were strategizing around community on farms, um, and what kind of environments needed to be built for community on farms. And anyway, this was
Hmm.
a strategy thing. But the guy who I was doing that with um, makes fry pans. And so he makes,
Non-toxic frying pans?
yeah. So
Of
look
course.
up Solid Technics. But
Okay.
Solid
I'm
Tech,
always looking for a lead on that stuff.
yeah. He makes fry pans that he started with cast iron, ended up with wrought iron, and still does wrought iron and stainless steel as well, but highly non-toxic. So his whole thing is, how do you make a legacy fry pan or a legacy cooking product that doesn't give you any toxins when you're cooking with it. Now, you've got to
Hmm.
take the responsibility of the oils and the temperatures and those things that you're going to
There
deal
you
with.
go. Yeah, yeah,
That's your part. That's like,
yeah.
but he's giving you the implement that you can work with that will do this job for you. No coatings and just these
Yeah,
things that
yeah.
it's very intentional about how you live. And, like I do this process called land whispering, which is about the energy in the land. And that we can get woo-woo on that as well. It's another tunnel, but
It's
it
another piece for
yeah,
sure. Yep.
exactly. And your geopathic stress lines in land and stuff, and then
Yeah.
where you will be and where you won't be. Where's the best for you in this? And
Hmm.
I go back to you can build the perfect environment, but if you put it on the wrong spot on a piece
Yeah.
of land, it will
Yep.
still be toxic. It will
Yep.
still carry,
Yeah.
and this kind of thing
And
of,
this technology goes thousands of years just to,
yeah, yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
add
It's
to
not,
that, right? This
yeah,
isn't anything new.
no. And
They've been
it's
doing this
not,
for a long time.
and it's not woo-woo.
Nope, definitely
It's
not woo-woo,
so I got a
you know.
question for you around this. Like, so do you know who Jose Silva was?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Silva method
Mm-hmm.
of mind
Yeah.
control.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the Silva method of mind
Yeah.
control is being able to control your mind to switch on your alpha brain waves at
Yep.
will. That's
Yeah.
kind of that encompasses it. And years
Yeah.
ago, I went and studied it, and in studying it, I was I was blown away by what you could do with it. And so to this day, I use it like lots. I'm a creative, so for me to, I've always had a practice of going, you'll get artists and they go, oh, I'm just not feeling it. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm a designer, not an artist. I, to be an artist, you've actually just got to do it for yourself. To do it, be a designer, you're doing it for somebody else.
Yeah.
But I go, yeah,
Extra motivation,
yeah,
inspiration behind it.
I go, your job as in design studios and stuff is not to wait for the feeling to be right. It's to create the mental environment and self environment to turn the feeling on. And
Mm-hmm.
you may have to work through some shit to get that done. And if that means that you've got to pull out
A
your
little bit of
sketch,
manipulation.
yeah, exactly. But if you put yourself in the thing and go, okay, here's my switch with like alpha mind control, getting that alpha mind to turn on. If you can switch it on and off, or just switch it on, at will, then you have that ability to put yourself into a flow state, and you have ability to do that. So whenever I
Yeah.
go to do any land whispering, I have my alpha brainwave switched on. I'm still
Yeah.
operating in beta if I have to talk to somebody, but my alpha is running. It's there. It's pulling it in. And so when
Yeah.
people say to me, "How do you know where's right?" I go, "Well, you're going to guide me to what you think feels right. I'm actually just reading everything at this point through
Mm-hmm.
my feet, my hands, the smell, the whatever. I'm not, there's no force in it. It's just turned on. It guides me to it. And there's
Yep.
places that I go, oh, okay, that doesn't feel so good. That does. Why? I don't know why exactly. I can if I go and research. I can go and
Yep.
find the reason why. But if I
Mm-hmm.
go, I can trust in those alpha brainwaves to guide me. Um,
Yep.
And that's, I mean, again, you kind of go, is this all woo woo? Well, call it what you will.
Yeah, it's energy,
Everybody's
frequencies.
everybody's using it anyway. It's just
It's
whether they're
frequencies.
using it intentionally. Yeah.
Yeah. And not to go back down the EMF path, but just imagine. So it's like you have this certain state, right? It's frequencies, right?
Hmm.
And imagine if you're just being bombarded with all of these other frequencies. Like, how do you get into that state if you're just being completely bombarded with
With everything
external
else. Yeah.
sources? Yeah, exactly. That's why obviously meditating, you're putting on certain, frequencies or
Yeah.
sounds, or you're out in nature, right? Getting into that flow state like you're talking about, to
Hmm.
be there, right?
Hmm.
It's essential. It's the same way. I do a lot of home inspections, not as much anymore. I'm kind of like scaling back because I'm getting ready to build these 20 homes. But, I basically go in there, I do my meditation, I do my Reiki, I do my practice, I clear everything out, and I go in there. It's like you talk about the land whispering. I'm like,
Hmm.
all right, home, talk to me.
Hmm.
What story do you have for me?
Hmm.
And then so I'll make kind of some recommendations. Sometimes I can't really explain it. Well, I have to for my client,
Yeah.
but it's hard for even for me to kind of explain initially. I'm like, I feel something, which took me into like being more mindful or intentional working with like certain interior designers too,
Hmm. Hmm.
that completely know how to manipulate that space
Hmm.
and, taking the balance of divine, feminine,
Yeah.
masculine, and colors and textures. And yeah, it's really cool. You and I were talking a little bit about that, so I like to defer out to somebody being in that flow space to kind of create that environment so our clients and our customers can get into that same flow state as
Oh,
well, you know?
absolutely. Like, and
Yeah.
yeah, the faster we can help them live in that flow state with their home,
Yeah.
the
Yes.
the faster their health span will improve,
Mm-hmm.
and the faster their community will improve. There are so many pieces linked to it. Yeah,
Yep.
like it fascinates me, and I go just being aware. The whole idea of things like what we're talking about is just to bring
Yeah.
a level of awareness so that people can start themselves into their own rabbit hole or their own
Mm-hmm.
journey.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, just asking themselves the question, you know. Um, I
But
want.
it all begins in that space that we call home.
Mhm.
That
Well,
one space that we're supposed to, well, besides nature and going out and, doing some kind of fun journey or something like that. But, however, we have to sleep somewhere. And I believe that it's very important that we sleep in that space that's very nurturing, that
yeah,
becomes that sanctuary for us
yeah.
to heal, for
Mm-hmm.
one,
Mm-hmm.
to rejuvenate, to
Mm-hmm.
get back into that space. So that's why I'm really fat. So as a general contractor, kind of like my background was health and wellness too. And by the way, I wanted to, so Paula being our mentor, we kind of
Mm-hmm.
touched base on something. So in 2003, I started building with what's referred to as an ICF, insulated concrete form, Lego block, built out of
Yep.
styrofoam,
Yep.
super cool. They were bulletproof, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hurricane resistant, mold resistant, fire resistant, seismic superior. Like that's really fascinating because I spent a lot of years in the lumber industry too. So kind
Mm-hmm.
of fast forward, and I got into the lumber industry for a lot of years to kind of kickstart my career. Got into construction right from there, and I'm like, screw the wood, man. I'm gonna go right into this ICF. This is the coolest thing ever, right? But I was a little kind of I think I was a little early still because steel had gone up, lumber had dropped down,
Right.
concrete had shot through the roof, and I
Yeah.
was like, no one wanted to build ICF anymore. I was like, man, this was the thing, So, kind of, I stayed in the concrete industry. That's really kind of what I spent most of my years doing. Was more concrete waterproofing, chemical containment. Kind of got into some pretty sophisticated, cool, sciencey stuff. But when I came back to building, I came right into building ICF, and I'm like, no, this is the answer, right? And to me, I thought it was building science, right? Because I'm
Yeah.
building this airtight, this sealed envelope that's superior. Paula and I, man, we went back and forth because I tried to come in and make every case on how foam block construction was healthy. you
Yeah,
know,
right.
and she was just bound and determined, going, hey, before I retire, I'm going to make sure that I change Brian's philosophies around that. And I have to tell you, I've come leaps and bounds, and even coming back into the industry, we all can justify something of
Yeah,
like, yeah, yeah, but okay, it's styrofoam, okay, it's made out of styrene acrylics, and okay, maybe it's not going to be recyclable, and but my goal is, hey, this home's going to be around for the next couple hundred years, and to me, that's green, and we can throw different spins on it. But if it wasn't for Paula, man, she really introduced me to awesome alternatives that were just no-brainers.
yeah,
I was just stuck on the ICF because I invested in forms and equipment and braces, and I just
sure.
knew that, right? The average contractor wouldn't even want to get an ICF because you have to learn to use all this stuff, right? And but she really connected me to great alternatives. So me as a builder, that's why I like sire wall, rammed
Uh-huh.
earth,
Uh-huh.
mass wall construction just
Uh-huh.
fascinates me. Obviously, we used to, dig holes and play in the dirt, right? So we like dirt, right? I like concrete. So I'm like, it's dirt and concrete mixed
Yeah.
together, creates a round earth. Love it. Makes total sense. Um, but the ICF, I was drawn more personally me as an ICF builder because I could build pretty fast with it and pretty
Yeah.
efficiently. Okay.
Construction efficiency's high. Yeah.
It is. It really
Yeah.
is. And so when I started Synergy 360, I'm like, no, this is it, man. We're going to build ICF. That's the thing. Because to me, again, it's it answers so many questions, right? And I'm like, and then when thanks to Paula turning me on to, and I'll share like here in the US, it's called Faswall, Faswall.
I don't
Joseph
know it.
Becker.
Yeah.
He's one of the owners over there. It's an insulated composite block. It's like
Oh,
a CMU concrete block on
yeah.
steroids. I mean, and this technology came from Germany 80 years ago. Like, there's
Right.
nothing new about it, right? And I'm like, this makes total sense. To me, it makes a lot of sense. It's fast, it's efficient to build with. Yeah, it's a little bit money to ship it. That's just kind of has its little nuances as cost wise goes.
Mhm.
However, that's for me. I just wanted to get out there and train contractors how to kind of build with this. Hey, if somebody has the time and the budget to build with like a round earth, great. Like, why not? Like, there's just nothing like being in a round earth home and grounding yourself and putting your hands on the walls and just feeling that space. It's
Mhm.
amazing, right?
Mhm.
But if we're going to change the industry, I don't think it's going to be building all rammed earth projects.
No.
I think it's going to be just like your drawings behind you, like some, yeah, sure, you could have a rammed earth wall feature here and there, but
Yeah.
that entire home just wouldn't make sense in that way. However, kind of thanks to Matt and building science and what they're doing with like timber framing, high performance timber
Yeah.
framing, we've come leaps and bounds. So like my three top building is performance. One's ICCF for me, that's
Yeah.
it. But then it would be high performance timber framing. But again, we can even make a case for the timber that we had, that we can't even get the timber that we had 60 years ago. It's not the same timber. It's,
It's
it's a
growing
totally different,
differently. It's a
yeah,
hybrid. It's a
the
hybrid.
whole it's a GMO version of
Hmm.
wood now, right? And
Hmm.
so, but thanks to the building science industry, it's like they're really getting creative on ways on how we stack these assemblies and come up with these details to create some really cool things. You know,
I
but
agree.
but it gets costly too. So it's
Yeah.
like, hey, we're constantly weighing things out here. So, as a builder, it's funny, like, hey, like I had to start from somewhere, and I had to really step outside of the box. And thanks to like, people like Paula and having mentors to go on, well, hey, if you just make a subtle little shift, it can change a lot of things and trickle right down the road. I'm like, yeah, you got that. So
I love that about Paula. Like I was so blessed. I had the best part of a week hanging out with her here.
yeah.
And so in this area that I live, I don't know how many houses I've done here, but a lot. And I got to take her for 3 days, I think. We just went to projects of mine,
Oh,
and they
so you
ranged,
got to show her your projects, huh?
yeah, they
Oh,
ranged
cool.
for about, I would say probably about 18 years
Oh,
of
wow.
over that time.
That's cool.
And so I took her uh, so she could critique them.
Yeah.
And and we'd meet, the owners and stuff while we were at the
That's
places
funny.
and stuff. And then,
And she does it so subtle too.
oh my
She
God,
she, she always
she's
asks the question, "Hey, have you considered?" Or "Hey, what was the thoughts around this?"
yeah, yeah. She every time we'd get in the car or we'd be walking on the beach or something like that, I'd say, okay, so with that project, give me some of your thoughts. And she would go, well, yeah, have you considered about the da 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 da? And we look, seriously, it was so absolutely amazing because, as my world of design has been a world of discovery. And what I thought 20 years ago and what I think now are like two different people. Um,
Yeah,
and yet 20 years
which is a
ago,
beautiful thing.
it is. 20 years ago, I had a thought around something and
Yeah.
started to include it,
Yeah.
but not with any knowledge base to it. And then as I would include it, then I would see it working, and then
Yeah.
ultimately
Yeah.
that comes backwards and forwards, and then my thirst for constant education on design, very much I'd be looking for, how can I join my dots? And I think
Yeah.
my dots on the kind of homes that we can live in really accelerated from when I met Zara. And that really well, it kind of pulled a whole lot of the dots together. It put them in the same space.
Awesome.
They weren't random
That's so
anymore.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was like, yeah, that made a big difference to my there were other people thinking the same way, or there were other people practicing doing things the similar way. Um,
Exactly.
I want to jump into that thing around rammed earth because fortunately and unfortunately, with rammed earth, it is either for the very poor or the very rich or the wealthy. You know,
It's
the
the
very
extremes.
it is
Yeah.
it exists on both sides. Like you can make rammed earth at home, but it will take you a little while. Um, but you can do that. You can build your own home out of rammed earth,
Yeah.
and you can.
Hmm.
I would say you could dig it out of your own backyard. Be careful doing that. You may not be able to as well.
Yeah,
It's a,
it's not.
it's a
Yeah,
mixture of aggregates.
there's a little more involved. There's some engineering involved there for
Yeah,
sure.
exactly. So, but you can do that. So it isn't a
It would
thing
be
of,
like us digging our tunnels,
yeah,
without any
exactly.
reinforcement. It'd be the same thing.
But you could embark on your own rammed earth home project
Yeah.
today, and within probably a couple of weeks of good research, you would have enough knowledge to be able to start building some test walls and doing some drop ball tests and seeing what would happen. And then
Yep.
you could be your own laborer. You could put
Yep.
it together. You don't even need pneumatics. You can pass it in a bucket if you want. So it is something for that can solve, I wouldn't say solve a housing problem. It can house anybody with the cheapest of abilities, lowest
Hmm.
amount of cement,
Okay.
um, and you might have to have some gravel delivered and stuff like that, the right things delivered.
Hmm.
But that would be the cheapest. And then when we put it into construction for homes, where we've got, teams of builders coming or teams of,
Production.
yeah, production, um, it is it is the more expensive end of construction.
Yeah, it changes it once you put it in that dynamic of more of kind of a production assembly,
Yeah.
where you're involving a lot of trades. It becomes, there's a lot of
Yeah.
nuances to it.
There is, and it's still highly labor intensive. Like it's still,
Hmm.
you've got this high labor part. and it would
Because
be
your general contractor's labors are going to be probably a lot higher than a DIY homeowner. I like kind of where you
exactly.
were going with that
Yeah,
because you
it's these
have
two
like
extremes.
these two extremes, right? And but it really comes down to like I think you were kind of pointing something out like that community, right? So I won't say like poor or whatever, but just say we just don't have not as much money, or
Yeah,
we kind of
yeah.
have to live within a certain means, but we want to be able to do something. Well, hopefully we have our community to
Hmm.
where everybody can pitch in that labor, right?
Hmm.
And everybody has their certain things that they can bring to the table and do some research, have, some building background in there somewhere. And
Absolutely,
then
absolutely.
absolutely, then you can build it. I believe you can build it, right? Because it's not like somebody's going for high-end architecture or they want to be featured in some kind of a fancy magazine. Like, look, this is built as super basic as we can make
Yeah.
this affordable and energy efficient.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. Well, it does those things. This is the most amazing thing. The wealthy can have rammed earth at their whim, because they can afford for the production of it to be created for them.
Yeah.
And in that, they get to live in probably, I'll go out on a limb. I would say in the best, most grounded environment that they could ever imagine.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
it it will do that. And
I
for
I'm gonna
anybody
agree
who's,
with you only because I'm partial to the concrete side of
yeah,
it. So,
yeah, look,
there's some
I
other cool things, hempcrete and autoclave block and all these other things, but
yep.
rammed earth has just a totally different vibe and feel to it.
It's ridiculous to be in a structure that's rammed earth, whether it's all rammed earth or partly rammed earth. It is
Yeah.
the feeling of, I always like to describe it, your ability to breathe out. Breathing in
Yeah.
isn't, we're going to do the breathing in, but the breathing out is the piece that's when we relax, we let it go, we pass it out. Um, and in rammed earth, you really get a sense of being able to breathe out, like breathe out. It carries a weight, um, and it physically, obviously, it's got a
Yeah.
weight, but it carries,
Yeah.
it
Carries
carries
a
a,
lot of weight.
yeah, but yeah, it carries this weight of
Yeah.
density and calmness
Yeah.
that it wraps around you. So it's
The
available,
the
the
ions,
ions.
I saw your post the other day. That's,
Yeah.
it's a we you know, we our time's obviously somewhat limited, but however, like
The
how
ions.
can we build how can
Uh,
we build an environment that supports that
yeah,
or promoting, or the breaking up of this positive or a negative ion
creating
charge?
negative ion charges so that
Yeah.
we end up
Hmm.
in the right spaces. So
Yeah.
with this, where I'm going with it is we've got the wealthy, they can have it, and they can have anything, so that's
Yeah.
fine. But then
Yep.
we've got the middle market,
Yeah. There you
who
go.
is
Yeah.
missing out. So we've
Yeah.
got the people who will do a community project and build something as a community, or the guy who spends his
Yep.
weekends hammering it into the ground,
Yep. Yep.
between the shutters. But then we've also got this middle market who is being fed fast food and, like crap,
Hmm.
and they're the ones who are going to have the biggest effect through our the population,
Yeah.
and they're missing out
That's where all
on
the production homes are being built for, is that
and
middle
they're,
group.
they're missing out on what this brings, and
Yeah.
brings to them physically, and calms them and centers them and connects them, um,
Hmm.
and they're, holding their breath waiting for what's going to happen next. They're the ones who are getting the least out of life from the building perspective, from the building that they live in. They're getting the least out of it for it nurturing them.
Yeah.
And like it's kind of like a crime. I don't know how to solve the problem, but I go, it's a problem to be solved. And I certainly know, um, that whenever we have to intensify the human involvement of labor cost, is when that pushes everything up. And
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
that thing that you said about coming back to community, um, and
Hmm.
community working together,
Yeah.
Is maybe that's a piece of what our future is.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes. Yeah. Along with education, right? So
yeah,
definitely we need that piece of community, which is coming.
yeah,
Um, but we need the firewalls out there, right?
yeah,
We need the Synergy 360s. We
yeah.
need these
I've got a
you know
company
the
here, Mineral
we
Fox, like this company that I deal with here that makes natural plaster work and
oh,
stuff like that,
nice.
that
Yeah.
breathes with you as well and deadens the sound and all those kinds of
All the
things,
all the
Mineral Fox.
hydric buffering
Yeah,
capacities and the
yeah,
breathability and the high permeability rates and
yeah,
all these, also promotes
yeah.
negative ions too. But, we need these companies to do what we're doing. We're educating, we're changing the industry. So as this community starts to evolve, then everything starts to become a little bit more practical and mainstream.
Mm,
And
mm,
I think that's in a time where we're coming now, right? You've got the building science aspect out there, but again, building even a timber framed home, that's not that
uh-huh.
cheap.
Mm,
Like it would be great to see them, what Matt's work is doing into production building. I think he's got a little bit of ways to go to get there, right? But
yeah,
he's emerging
yeah,
that market.
yeah.
I'm coming in from the health and completely just a different lens, because I'm coming in
Hmm.
from the health and wellness, and hey, if it's health and wellness, then by default we are going to be building with some kind of science,
Oh,
there is
hundred
definitely going
percent,
to, yeah,
a hundred
and
percent.
here's the thing, if we're building using, trying to use more natural resources to Paula's point, we're building using a lot of performance strategies, you know, now we are by default building sustainably. We are building eco-friendly.
Hmm.
We are
Hmm.
building,
Hmm.
green. I don't
Hmm.
even use those terminologies because if we're building for health and wellness and adopting these sciences, now we're building buildings that are going to be around for 300 years. Seriously,
That's
that you
what
can
they
just
should be.
yeah.
That's what they should be.
We're
Like,
coming, and that's where they were. Of course, now
yeah,
we have all the modern amenities and technologies, but how cool, like, and I'm sure you'll appreciate this, even me as a builder and kind of doing a lot of build design stuff too, working with architects. It's like we're trying to build a net infrastructure where we could just do kind of swap out kind of things. Hey, in the
yeah,
next 50 years or,
yeah.
70 years, this is probably going to become obsolete. What do we swap it out with, right? And so let's kind of think long term. So that I love geeking out on that kind of stuff,
I'm
you
with
know?
you, man, on that. I think there's so much of that. A home has, well, here in Australia, it's meant to last 50 years. A lot of them would struggle to last 50 years, which is pretty
Yeah,
sad.
same here. Same
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
And they will struggle with a 50-year lifespan, the amount of work that will need to go into them.
Roofs
Um,
are failing, windows are failing,
yeah.
siding's failing. It's kind of like the first line of defense. Again, building biology talks about the home
Yeah.
as being that third layer of skin. If you've ever heard Paula talking
Yes.
about
Yeah,
that, you know?
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have. For just for people who are listening, Paula's book, called Prescription for a Healthy House, um,
Yeah.
Paula and John, that is a book. If any of this has sparked any of your interest, and you go, I want to live with a better health span and a better home, um, Paula's not only an absolute guru as a building biologist. She's a very intentional architect as well. And the girls,
Yeah.
you know, um, at EcoNest as well, who have carried on the practice of the same. And then, you move from them to people like Andrea Keller, again, very much very aware of all these things. These people are all in the same infrastructure or
Yeah.
in the same
Absolutely.
community.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Turn over a few rocks, but get Paula's book. You know,
Yeah.
Paula was telling me a little while ago, she said, and I can't remember whose podcast it was she went on, but she went on, so it's on my podcast. She talks about it. Um, she went on this particular podcast, and it was these guys who were biohackers. Now, I can't remember how many years
Oh,
the book's been in print, you know.
okay. Was
Anyway,
it whose
well,
podcast was it
I can't remember. But
that she
anyway,
did with someone else?
yeah.
Was
And
with it was with Ben Greenfield.
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and she said her book
I actually set
sales.
that up.
Oh, did you? Well,
Yeah.
she said her book sales, it was the first time she said, I actually made some money off my book. Um, she said it changed everything because these biohackers are looking for health span.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because they're looking for health span, the people who
Hmm.
listen to them went,
Yes.
oh my God, this is
Yeah.
something I have to take
Yeah.
care of. My
Yeah.
house is killing me.
Yep.
And
Yes.
so then just being able to read her book and digest it and come through that loop and be able to go, okay, what do I need for my health span? Go and grab her book. It's the Bible that everybody
Yep.
refers
Tells
to.
you, like, literally it tells you how to build your house. Like,
Yeah,
and any builder that reads that book is giving you the whole formula. Materials, everything. She breaks
yeah,
it down. Everything's vetted.
yeah, yeah.
Matter of fact, when I started my whole thing, I used a lot of the materials because there's only so many materials out there.
Hmm.
She spent 40 years vetting the
Yeah,
best materials. They're in the book.
the
You don't
book.
even need to hire me. If you
That's
can
it.
build something, grab the book, and there you go.
There you go. Isn't
Really.
it? It's really interesting, eh?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, because she really takes, all of the years of building biology and her knowledge and their philosophies. She literally puts it all together in one book.
yeah, yeah.
It's
And
all
so
there.
I would say to people, if this interests you, yeah, by all means, start your journey there and then
Yeah,
reach out to well, you reach out to either, myself or reach out to Brian and ask,
yeah,
what's my next step?
yeah,
I'm only going to introduce you to more people like Brian and
yeah,
and
yeah.
and to Paula's and people
We're
like that.
coming, man. We're here. We're all starting to surface, and
Yeah, it's
thanks
the
to your
journey.
platforms, man. Your help. It was funny, Ben Greenfield. So I got really big into the biohacking thing. So
Yeah,
that was the connection. So Ben had brought me on early on as a consultant. Of course,
right.
I was doing everything with Paula, and I'm like, Paula, you got to come on board with Ben. This is a great opportunity. So I'm glad that it kind of played out good that way. Um, but yeah,
I
the biohacking community, that's what kind of it's all coming together, Adrian. Like the health and the wellness, the biohacking was kind of like this movement of really, you know, taking our own biology into our own hands and really what is it?
self-control.
It's back to
Self-control.
that piece, right?
Yeah.
And it's doing your research and it's understanding and kind of finding the place of where Eastern medicine and Western medicine and all of the approaches and where everything kind of sits. And there's a spiritual aspect of that too, and really it was a big movement in the health and wellness industry. I was deep into that world, still am,
Yeah.
I just, I don't, now I just live it, before
I
it
was
was
about
just,
to say you were a discovery
yeah.
before now you live.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was a lot of fun and discovery, which opened me up. And again, it was interesting, right? So it's
Mm.
like, you get into being a health coach and, teaching your clients how to read the labels of food and the sourcing and all of these things. And again, the technologies and that was really so I already had building. I was already a builder already, but then when I went down that path and then I came back into the building, it just made so much sense, right? Because it's like learn to read all of your labels, identify the sources of the materials, who's making the claims, who's writing the research, where are the paper, like really let's get down to the deep science behind it all. And so building biology was just fun because then I could really go deep into lighting, go deep into water, go deep into, different toxic types of materials, right?
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
deep into the whole EMF thing and to really come back through, speak with the contractors and like, because I don't want it to be, the clients, they want this, and I don't even know if I get these materials. I don't even know what they're talking about. I do a lot of consulting too, just so you know, and the audience here. So if you're doing some stuff here in the US, reach out. But, basically I put together my own book,
Yeah.
thanks to like
Yeah.
mentors like Paula, but from a GC perspective,
Yeah.
because I want to be able to
That's hugely valuable.
I want to simplify it, right?
Yeah.
I don't want our contractors to go on, man, this is just ridiculous, or I don't even know what this means, or why would we even want to do this? Like, no, let's throw a spin on this because now you can reinvent yourself as a builder, become very more progressive in what you're doing. and really, and it's kind of going back to the basics, really,
It
and it's
is,
really
but it's
understanding.
it's basics with data.
Yeah,
That's the difference.
yes, yes, yeah,
The data is now the
yes,
proof
yes,
of what
yeah,
worked.
yeah,
So you don't have to wonder whether it was right or wrong. The data
yeah.
proves it's right.
And I'm telling you, the data has come so far. Like,
Yeah,
this isn't a trend. This isn't, hey, we're going to be talking about EMFs this year, and then next year it was wrong. Like, no,
yeah,
this is
no,
factual
no.
stuff
This
that's
is
taken, it's taken this lifetime to finally come to the forefront, going, oh yeah, definitely. This is why we really want to focus on the health and the wellness, and then in the building industry. One thing that we kind of touched base over just slightly, and it was like indoor air quality, right?
oh yeah,
And kind of what that looks like. We talked about, negative ions and, natural building materials that don't produce all these VOCs and toxins and things like
hmm
that. But it's understanding and working with somebody like such as myself, or an HVAC contractor, that
yep,
understands,
yep,
climate, understands ventilation, understands filtration, or even for that matter, working with an MEP, mechanical engineer
yep.
that understands how to design things, like, okay, hey, if we're using building science techniques, we're building tight envelopes, you got to have some kind of ventilation in there, right? And it's understanding indoor air quality of where we're delivering the air and where we're returning this airs from, and then what we're doing to exchange this air. And that's why these topics of ERVs and, then it gets into like filtration thanks to
hmm
COVID, because now everyone's
hmm
scared about these airborne pathogens and,
hmm
bacteria. And then, of course, mold is always a thing. And so now, understanding of where we're at today, like we're at the all-time pinnacle, I believe, from understanding indoor air quality and construction, right? So again,
Yeah, yeah.
GC comes on board. We're understanding these strategies. We're sharing the strategies. We're embedding these strategies in through the architect, through the design, through the engineering aspect, sharing this with the contractor. Any good high performance contractor is going to go, oh, great. You got, returns and supplies to all the main rooms, or we've
Yep.
got plenty of conditioned space where you're running all your duct work. You're running this, okay, I don't even know what a MERV 16 or HEPA filter is, but you got some great air infiltration in there. Cool, great. Okay, yeah, you're bringing passive airflow because, or you're bringing an ERV as some kind of an exchanger because we have a tight envelope. All these things that now they make sense.
I,
Like we're
I
not,
I have a question about it because I have an argument regularly around passive house, and
mm,
I'll give you everything's contextual. So
yeah,
that's my first thing is everything's contextual, and um, with passive house, I'm like, what's the environment you live in, and if that's the environment you live in, does passive house suit it? So I'll
hmm
give you the example. So where I live here is probably a bit like living in Florida. It doesn't get super ridiculously hot. Certainly doesn't get
but
super
it's
ridiculously
high
cold.
humidity. You have a lot of humidity.
We have a lot of
Yeah.
humidity, yeah.
Mm.
And we design, for the most part, houses where half your external, not half, a third of your external walls slide away and open, and there is no sealed envelope when you're living in the house. There is, you can seal
Yeah.
it, you can close
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
but for the most part, you won't. You'll have whole walls of glass that slide open. You'll have um, the breeze
I,
running
I
in
can
one
I can
side
see
and
that with
out
the
the other.
drawings on in the background.
Yeah.
I see a lot of window space.
Yeah, lots of windows and lots of opening windows and lots of natural air exchange. Now, as I say, everything's contextual. Um, Most of the houses that I would design here, uh, some are on urban blocks, but if they're on urban blocks, it's not beyond, it's not stupid high density or anything like that. A lot of them are on semi-rural blocks. So again, they're kind of in the open. If
Mm-hmm.
they're beachfront, if they might be on urban block beachfront, but then they've got water right there. They're
Mm-hmm.
not usually subjected to heavy metals and lots of that kind of pollution that you would get
Mm-hmm.
in a city or
Yeah.
like high.
So
Yeah,
natural,
there's a lot of natural
yeah,
air exchange. Now, with
yeah,
that,
yeah.
we get a lot of dust, of course, because we
Mm-hmm.
have trees. And so dust is organic matter. We've got dust on ourselves. We're dusting off as well, but that's our organic matter. And then we get humidity and we get heat. So we will get mold. We will get
Yeah,
mold. There,
yeah.
people go, we need a mold-free environment. I go, you're prepared to completely close your house all the time
Mm-hmm.
because we can do that for you and we build you a passive house.
Okay.
But you
Okay.
can't open the doors and windows other than to go in and out. You can't leave the window open all day because we just ruined the air exchanges. That we're allowing that organic matter in.
Mm-hmm.
So Hawaii would be another example of our
Mm-hmm.
climate. So with it, we build, we design shelter that can be enclosed, but for the most part, it's shelter that will be open.
Yeah.
And so this was
So
one
how
of
do you
my,
guys deal with how do you guys deal with the high humid I'm gonna say you guys must like the humidity, like what do you do to escape from that humidity?
pro
Or is it not that bad? What
no, no,
percentage
no,
wise, what
it
are we
is.
talking?
Oh, it's easy for it to be 80 to 90%
Oh,
humidity
and
at
you
different
guys are just
times.
opening the windows for all this natural air at 80%.
Well, to tell you the truth, I took the air conditioning out of my house when I bought it. So my house is
Uh-huh.
a renovator, and I removed the air conditioning because I went, you know what? I'm gonna punch a whole lot of holes in the house. I already had quite a few, but I'm gonna punch a whole lot of holes in the house and create cross
Uh-huh.
flow of air, and
Okay.
I'm gonna take air out of the roof as well.
Uh-huh.
Um, I'm gonna
Conditioned space then? Is that what you did
There
for
is
the
no,
roof?
no, 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 no. I just allowed some for venting so that we could
Oh,
open and close.
okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And in my case, I contextual again. I sit on a north facing, so north is your south. So
Yep.
I sit north facing on the top of a or on the side of a hill that gains breezes that come from the sea and across the land, and they come up over
And
this hill and they go through my house. They
that
go,
and of course that's the natural light side.
of course, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
open on really north, south, and east, but not so much west. West's our hot side. Um, but with that, I my aim is always to design a house that is not reliant on any um, mechanical air
Okay.
ventilation
Okay.
so that it can operate completely naturally. Now,
Okay.
it, I've done it with a number of homes here, and even when we get really hot days, they go, we still don't put that on. We still don't put, and even really humid days. Now, mold is the enemy, of course,
Yeah.
because we will still get spots where we will get mold. Um, and that's where something like rammed earth will not mold.
Yeah.
Um, mineral
Or use the materials that have a high permeability to them.
That's it. Mineral Fox as a plastering solution, natural plastering solution will not mold, because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
doing its
The lime.
permeability.
Yeah,
Yeah.
natural antimicrobial properties to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have this argument, which is still put some form of air conditioning in just about every home. Um,
Hmm.
and with that, I go, hopefully you've wasted your money and you'll never use it. Um, but
Yeah, because it adds a price point for sure.
yeah,
If we're building in Florida, we're building in Austin, Texas. I mean,
yeah. Well,
depending on
Austin
the size of
thinks
that. you
Austin
know,
thinks it's humid. It's not humid compared to
yeah.
here.
Oh man,
Yeah.
we put dehumidifiers in. I
Yeah.
know where you're going with this, So of course me, I love to geek out on technology and typically our line item, again, whether it's Arizona, whether it's Texas, for climate control,
Uh-huh.
ventilation strategies, or, filtration, we're between 30 and 50,000 on a decent sized home. Obviously, it just
Absolutely.
continues to go up, right?
Ours is the
Um,
same. Plus,
and
plus.
and and I'm not a passive house consultant. I'm intrigued with building science, but I weigh more again thanks to Paula's
Nature's gold
mentoring.
standard. Yeah.
Nature's gold standard is like, okay, I'm like in the middle, to be
Hmm.
honest with you. I love the technology. I love to have like that perfect climate, that perfect, humidity factor, depending whatever the region that you're building in. That's why really I'm a big advocate of like the ICF construction and like the more natural building materials because
Yeah.
I feel like I'm kind of creating kind of a hybrid.
Hmm.
So, hey, if right now you're kind of given this perfect kind of this rural kind of a conditioned space, right? Me, if we're gonna have an outreach to builders across the country, we're gonna be building in a rural, and urban and
From
different.
Vermont to Texas. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
right? With all
Yeah.
of the different
Yeah.
climate zones and the
Every
extreme
climate zone.
regions.
Yeah.
And so, like so I kind of build like my philosophies are like more hybrid, right? Like, so
Hmm.
how could we still build passive home, building tight, just building science, just building a
Yeah.
tight home. However, still bring in provisions of high permeability, natural building materials,
Yeah.
cross flow
Yeah.
techniques and ventilation. So
Yeah.
you can still operate it in both ways. So, hey, nice days, clear air, boom, shut the technologies down, open up your cross flow, and you have a home that's still going to perform the same. So
This is
that's where
me.
my mind is always going,
This is that's 100% me. It's like if you get the materiality and the design right, um, your reliance on mechanical reduces, just constantly reduces. And the
Yeah.
other thing I have is again contextual. I live in a climate that the range isn't so huge. You can put on a sweater, you can pull on an extra, whatever it is. You can take something off. The range isn't that
Right.
extreme.
Yeah.
Um, and therefore, because it's not that extreme, the closer we live to nature, the closer we live to nature. It
Mm-hmm.
goes without saying. So the climate, the closer we can live with that, we don't want to be outside in it because it's hot and sunny and it will burn us. It's like it's bad for our skin to be too exposed. But we
Yeah.
do want to be able to feel a breeze on us,
Yeah.
a natural breeze,
Yeah.
not a fan.
Mm-hmm.
These kinds of things. So I find it really fascinating in the journey of what's best for where. And because
Yes.
I've got projects, in England, and in like New Zealand, and then in different states
Two
around
extreme
Australia.
opposite climates. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. These are very different from where I live. Luckily, I've traveled a lot, and in traveling a lot, I've experienced a lot and lived overseas in different places and stuff with this kind of mindset always ticking, the hamster wheel's always going as to what makes best. But then also the thing I've found from the podcast is I can talk to, you in Tucson or somebody in New York State or somebody in Canada and go, tell me what happens in that climate or in this
Yeah.
environment, and then start to make it for that. I have a friend from the UK. He is one of the UK's passive house specialists. Um, he's got a really good reputation for being, passive house, but in a very modern way as well. And anyway, he was saying to me about his own home, which is a renovation of an old building. And he was, I said to him, so is it passive house? And he said, not certified because of being an old building, we'd never get the certification. But he said it's built to the passive house standard. And I
Hmm.
said, and how do you find that, he lives in London, in a nice neighborhood in London. And I said, how do you find that? How is it living passive house there? And he said, well, it's bloody great, except my wife opens the windows.
That
And
is hilarious.
isn't it? Like, and I go, I get
That,
people who say to
yeah,
me, like Zara, even about Passive House, I go, we do not need, there are, we can do it here, but we do not need it here, right where I live. So I'm not the big advocate for it for this
right.
climate.
Yeah,
Take me
yeah,
somewhere else, I'm all over it. Like, yep, I
right.
believe in
Yeah,
it. But yeah, just a really interesting thing, this contextual thing.
yeah.
One of the things I love about building biology, it doesn't matter what climate you're in, the standards are the standards, are the things
Yeah,
that work. They
exactly. Yeah, yeah. You're just kind of swapping out materials or you're kind
that's
of
it.
changing insulative values. I mean, they're kind of
Yeah.
small tweaks, really,
Yeah.
when
They're
you're kind of
building
building
for the
this,
environment.
you're building for the environment, kind of back to the passive house. And again, and I think we're kind of real similar. Like, I want to have, like, it's hard for me to be on a platform of a program because it might have a lot of things that I do like, but it has things that I don't like, right? And I'm the guy that has to have the one program that fits everything,
Yeah.
and I've spent my whole life looking for that. And so, like, it just kind of makes sense on, like what I was sharing. I'm like, okay, cool. It's like building biology. It's like we're
Yeah.
just kind of making some shifts and some tweaks depending on the region and what you're doing. That's why I didn't go down the passive house because I'm like, nah, it's kind of more than that. Like, it's kind of everything. I'm more focused on health and wellness, but I kind of want it all. Like,
I
so,
like that. But
if I was designing and building with you, like, I'd be like, can't we like just can't we just kind of put a lot of some attention into like building a certain tight home, but yet still have it operate the way that you want it to operate? So if we're having, yeah, I don't know the region, if we're having wildfires or if we're having bad indoor air quality or something happens or the neighbor puts a 5G tower, whatever, like
yeah.
could we still have that option if we ended up closing those windows? Could we like drop that humidity down to like 55%, have that temperature at 72, and
Yeah.
just still look out the window and look at and admire everything? But if we want to go outside and be in the hot, sticky humidity, can we have that, So,
I think that humans are incredibly or have become incredibly unadaptable to temperature change. Um, and I think it's like an issue. I remember as a kid,
yes,
we'd
it's
be
an
in,
issue.
yeah, we're, we're trying to, we're trying to eliminate any discomfort. And we are trying to do that. But when we start to get everything that's just on a thin, narrow line, we don't get any context. We don't get any contrast. And with no
Yes.
contrast, everything becomes mundane. It becomes boring again. It's like we need to be able to feel different things at different times. Maybe that's just me.
Well, that's why we can just travel outside of the home for adventure. But
That's
in
it.
that one place that we could have that again, eh, we all have little different philosophies. And here's the thing, like people are like, "Well, Brian, you're building a bubble. You're trying to create a bubble," and I'm like, "That's exactly what I'm trying to do.
You're
I'm
damn
trying."
right. You've got me.
I want to have the temperature just perfect. I want to be able to cool it down at night for the optimal sleeping
Yeah.
experience, right? I want to have the blackout shades. I want to have the circadian light. I want the structured water. Like, I want the non-toxic building materials. I want the low CO2 in my room when I'm sleeping because I'm exporting all of that air out and I can sleep with the door shut, so on and so forth, right? But also too, if I want to go outside of that environment and put myself into to some extreme, I have that control ability to be able to do that. So my philosophy is like whether I'm building in Tucson or Australia or in Austin
Wherever.
or
Yeah.
Florida or New York, man, I want to be able to teach people to build an environment that you can control because we can always go out, like it was working with an architect. He was super open, but he's like, Brian, I don't get it. The client had the money. Like, you're putting all of this technology and all the means of this $40 million home,
Wow.
but the client's going to go out there and expose themselves, to all of this crap anyways. shopping at natural grocers or Sprouts or Whole Foods, all the markets we have here in the US, these are the holistic, healthy ones, being exposed to Wi-Fi and electrosmog and the poor air quality from the car exhaust and all these different types of things. And I says, yeah, but I said, at least the one place that client can go recover and get back to a place of homeostasis is their home. That's what we're creating,
Isn't that perfect?
you know?
You're giving them the
Yeah.
sanctuary. You're
We're giving
giving,
them the sanctuary.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
one place
Yeah.
that they can rely on.
That health and wellness where we can, and then of course we'll have all the modalities that are built in,
Uh-huh.
right? We have the infrared saunas and the
Mhm.
saunas and the light therapies and the cold plunges and, all the cool things, right?
Yeah.
Right there. So my view and what I'm getting ready to build these 20 homes here in Tucson, north of Tucson, it's exactly that, right? So they'll range anywhere between 2,000 square feet to we'll have six models to 5,500 square foot.
Right.
So nice range in there. Again, it's only 20 homes. And the reason I'm doing but we're doing a nice open, spacious floor plan again.
Yeah.
We want the openness.
Hmm.
It's a little bit more modern, contemporary, but Southwestern, right? Like,
Hmm.
and I know you'll appreciate this too.
It's climate contextual.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
We're not building two stories. These are single stories. These are kind of
Nice.
more of a kind of a flat roof parapet. Maybe we'll do some pitched roofs here and there, low slope and whatnot. But however, I want these homes, and we were talking about this earlier before our podcast, that we want to build indigenous to the area that makes
Yeah.
sense of why that home, so like here in the Southwest, obviously, is a lot of native Indian,
Yeah.
Hopi, flat
Yeah.
roof, Southwestern, right? And so
Adobe style.
Adobe, so
Yeah.
I'm just throwing a modernized spin on it,
Hmm.
but so in 200 years, when somebody's looking back in this valley, and by the way, it's down into a canyon, the homes will be timeless. Like it looks like they're supposed to be there.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
never
It
no
looks
other
like they
home,
were.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
They're
So
of
so
the
that's
place.
that's a
Of the
lot of the
place.
design, so we want it to definitely be biophilic and just kind of flow in there with nature,
Yeah.
sizable lots. Again, all of the technologies, the healthy home, a bubble could be a bubble. You can open up the doors, it could be whatever you want it to be,
Mm.
because we have really good, it gets hot here in Arizona, but if we're building a mass wall, a highly
Yeah.
efficient home anyways,
Yeah.
it's gonna be very
It's,
easy to
it's
climatize,
I was about to say it, and that will take care of a lot of it anyway. The
Yeah,
actual the design, well, the siting first,
yeah.
and then the
Y-
design and how the
Yep,
designing suits the siting, and then B, it's
yep.
going to be the materiality
There
and
you go.
how you're using everything from nature to work with you, even
Yep,
though you're going to work within its space, how you're going to
yep.
work as closely and sympathetically with it as possible.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, and
Um, yeah,
not disturb too much of the
yeah,
space. We're going in there, we're just creating a tight little space. Then
yeah,
we'll do some, nice landscaping and some swimming pools. People like their swimming pools
yeah.
here in, Arizona especially.
Hmm.
But even the swimming pools themselves will have some really cool technology and filtering systems with structuring and reducing chlorine and because that's a big thing, right? Chlorine in
So,
the skin, and so
yeah.
I'm really big into water quality. It's going to be one of the big things there.
I'm doing a project at the moment that has a total natural filtration pool. Um,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's got like, the whole filtration piece of the pool that you don't swim in, and then the pool actually goes through that, all the reeds and rushes and all that stuff. It's just pure water.
That's on a
Yeah,
whole another
yeah.
level. You need some space and some money to create that. Me, I'm
Yeah.
kind of using more
Well,
technology and filtration systems and generators to kind of
interestingly,
kind of simulate that almost, if you will.
yeah, with what we're doing, yes, we do have budget and we do have space, but beyond the budget and the space, I'm working with a landscape architect here called Philip Johnson, who's very famous in Australia, and we all know the name Philip Johnson from, architecture, but he's an architectural landscape designer. Um, and with that, the opportunities to do it on small scale. is something that we're like, so that you could have it in any house
I
or
love
every
that.
house
Yeah. Yeah.
is the conversation that we're having. And I've got some other, like I'll share some pool contact people with you around some thinking with that as well. Um, yeah,
I'd love to
I
collaborate on that. Yeah, because the
yeah.
swimming pools are becoming a big topic for the natural water and the
Hmm.
chlorine. I mean,
Hmm.
it's a thing, being too much exposure to chlorine and
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely. It's
so
another chemical.
it's another
Another
chemical,
chemical.
man. So yeah, everything that we look at. But yeah, so yeah, Arizona. So we're getting ready to start building here.
That's exciting.
By the
That's really
time you come
exciting.
to visit,
Yeah.
I don't know if
February.
we'll be broken ground yet, but definitely look forward to having you come out and look at
Yeah.
the space. It's beautiful space. It's
Come
beautiful.
and
It's
come
back
and
into a canyon, like there's no traffic. It'll be so if anybody's looking to move to Arizona or just wants a healthy home.
yeah.
One other thing, Adrian, I want to point out, this is really important. So I've been involved with some pretty large projects that, 100 home plus. I'm
Wow.
not the only one doing this. Everybody's coming up with their communities and their concepts and bioregenerative farming practices or,
Yeah.
permaculture and, sustainability and self-supportability for these homes. But where people miss is the actual quality control of what the intention of the home. Again, I geek
The
out this
actual building of
the
the home.
building process itself,
Yeah.
right? Down to
Yeah.
the labor that's the
Yeah.
one that's actually doing the job, you
Yeah.
know, and the disconnect. So on some of these bigger projects, there will be a bunch of stakeholders, shareholders, people with multiple decisions, contractors coming in there, lack of direction. I've been on the projects. I see it
Hmm.
happening. I've been on projects that I just can't be a part of because it's just a waste of my
Yeah.
time and their money
Yeah.
because they're not carrying it out at the end anyways, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the big reasons now of this for me is this 20 home development, this community. One, it's a community. Um, but it's really to build the proof of concept of I hired my own architect, but it's a lot of my influence
Yeah.
too,
Of course.
so I'm
Yeah.
part of the design,
Yeah.
whether it's with another architect. Anyways, I just have big influence on design. I'm the contractor, I'm the project manager. I'm bringing in all of the specifications. I'm driving the whole thing and to have tight relationships with all of the trades, all the way down to the labor at the end, to understanding why they are there to do what they do, that they're not just building another house. They're part of a legacy, as you mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
right? They're part of something unique and something that's different, right? And it's like when you really bring in that interest, everybody's just so gun ho because they know they're part of something just different, right? And so this is more proof of concept of, hey, if you want to build a community and you're the contractor, this is how involved that you need to be. Not that it's putting on more responsibility, it's just understanding the
Mm.
flow, the program, the
Mm.
design
Mm.
of everything and understanding the values and the aspects of why we're doing why we're doing. Yeah,
Yeah.
supervision has to be a big key to that. So then hire on a supervisory board and superintendents that you educate, that you run them through their own, program or read Paula's book, whatever, just to make
It,
sure that they're
well, what you're
following
doing is
suit.
you're creating an intelligent system,
Yeah.
it
No.
it self-perpetuates itself
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
It's a holistic learning circle.
But but it's hard.
Of
On these
course.
projects,
Yeah.
like you would think, for me it's easy.
Yeah.
It's super easy. It's pretty straightforward, pretty black and white,
But
but once you
they've got to unlearn stuff to learn stuff, like
there it
that's
is.
part of it. Like you've got to,
Hey, it's what Yoda said.
yeah. Yeah. Back to Star Wars. What was that, Luke?
Yeah, I mean, you must unlearn everything that you've learned, and it's this, you nailed it. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. And I'm telling you, it's a challenge. And so
But
that's why I want it. That's why I'm doing that. And it's another big, yes, I want to build a community. Yes, I want to build 20 homes. Super exciting. We're getting into mass, not just one, not just a single, one-off custom spec,
mhm.
whatever, proof of concept. No, this is a community. This is a community where we're going to bring in the designers, the architects, the contractors, and
It's
hey,
super
how did you do
exciting.
this?
Super
Yeah,
exciting.
yeah, it's
I think that,
exciting.
and as you say, like you're setting up a model.
Yeah,
And I
that's
think
it.
a lot of people don't realize that every time that you build, one individual home for somebody, it is a custom job. It is custom. It is an experiment with a lot of um, knowledge and expertise. That means that it will work at the end, but it is still an experiment. It's still a process that takes you from here to here with everything in line, but it's the first time you've ever done it for this particular environment spot, all these things. It's not like a tract home where it's just like you punch it out, put it on stilts, punch it out, put it on stilts, punch it out. It's not that.
The,
It is a journey of discovery and execution,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know? Yeah.
I when I came back to Arizona from building in California, um, to start this mission of Synergy 360, I built two spec homes with my own money,
Uh-huh.
couple $1 million. Sold my old businesses, cashed out everything that I could possibly and I took the gamble to build these spec homes, to build it the way that we're talking about with all the things, right? And it was a big risk because
Yeah.
even like a lot of people that knew me, they're like, "What are you doing?" Like, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "Man, I'm building this home. It's got all this circadian stuff and all this special water systems, and building science." And they're like, "Man, you're taking a huge risk." Because there's nobody that really understands what you're doing. And even short as 5 years ago when I built these specs, it was pretty risky, right?
Yeah.
Because but thanks to COVID, kind
I
of
was
because it was
about to
I
say.
was right. I was building during COVID, so everyone's like, "Oh, you could throw a whole spin on air quality because people don't want to be exposed to all those bacteria and pathogens." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, great. I'll just use that as one of the reasons, whatever."
I was about,
However,
yeah,
you know,
COVID became your marketing department.
actually, it did. It was a kind of a
Yeah.
blessing in disguise for me because that
Yeah.
was when I decided to build. Yeah, I didn't know COVID was coming, but anyways, it's what I got. That's what I got stuck with, man. However, kind of to your point was I had to build it. I didn't want to be influenced by what somebody wanted. I didn't want to use somebody's budget to build something
Mhm.
that, hey, it may work or it may not. I knew it was going to, but it was
Of
just like
course.
I didn't know
Yeah.
what the outcome was going
Yeah.
to be, right? How the home would really function. And
Yeah.
I didn't have anybody willing to throw out $1 million just for fun, just to go kind of build a proof of concept, right?
Hmm.
So I did it on my own. And that's kind of really what makes me a little bit unique because I took these philosophies of building biology and building science and I just whoop, I put it all together. And
And the
it was
rubber
a and
met the road.
dude, I'm telling you, man, I was hey, it wasn't easy. It was pretty stressful and
Uh, you know,
I had to go I had to have therapy over it.
well, being a pioneer isn't about being easy.
Nope.
It's not about being easy. It's about being deliberate and committed. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've got a
yeah.
last I've got a last question for you.
Yes, sir.
And this one's going to shift you to what I call my emotional floor plan. So this should feel like therapy. Um,
I feel the therapy coming on as soon
yeah,
as you
here it
said
is. Yeah, like
emotional. Yeah.
oh shit. Um, I do this thing called an emotional floor plan, and this is kind of a little touch on it. If you can tell me in your own home your most favorite space in your own home, and what is one emotional word that would sum up that space for you?
The space would be the space that I'm creating, whether it's an office, you know,
But
Brett.
in your current home, where is it?
Yeah, yeah, it's in my office, man.
Office? Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
it's in
sorry,
my.
I understand you now. The space where you're creating, when you're doing your
What now?
creative work.
Yeah, like
Right.
you want
No,
to.
no,
Did
no.
I get it wrong?
No, no, you didn't get it wrong.
Yeah, okay.
I took it that it was something that wasn't already there. So,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, no, I was just thinking because sometimes I shift spaces, but it's I for me, it's getting into that flow state, in my office. That becomes my meditation room. That becomes my healing room. It becomes my flow room. It's where we have conversations like this
Hmm.
to really make things happen and really connect. Like your family, right? You're all the way in Australia. We
Hmm.
have never met in person, but it's
Hmm.
like we have this connection.
Hmm.
So for me, it's like it's a really important space for me because it's that community of like we talked about, right? So, that's what that space
Mm.
kind of represents for me.
And one emotional word.
I think it's joy. Is that a
Wow.
It's joy, it brings joy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And if you were going to move house, well, two things here, two questions kind of, but if you were going to move house, how would you create that space? Again, how would you make the architecture of that space respond to bring you the most amount of joy?
Gotta have a lot of light. Lots of windows, lots of light, crystals, you know.
What height would the ceiling be? What shapes would the walls be?
Oh man, it could be a box of Jesus. It doesn't even as long as it's just got natural light. I like bright spaces. I
Hmm.
like bright spaces. Got to be bright.
And would that natural light, would that be daylight or sunlight? And I'll make
It
the
would
distinction for people listening.
it
Sunlight
it'll
is
it'll
direct, daylight
yeah,
is filtered. Yeah.
it's daylight,
Yeah.
I'm an athlete, and I still
Hmm.
train, so I go out. That's essential,
Hmm.
so if you're not an athlete and you still don't train or you don't train, you've got to have that direct sunlight exposure. However, I do have a lot of natural light, come into in my spaces, or if I was to, like you mentioned, like I think it's like you kind of have a Zen garden, right? I love being in a place of Zen,
Hmm.
in a
Yeah,
place of calm,
I was saying I've got a
right?
Japanese garden
Yeah, yeah. I
outside. Yeah.
mean, so like the whole Zen thing, peace, calm, quiet.
Mm.
So the space would represent, the natural light, that quiet space,
Yeah.
to be able to
Yeah.
get into that place of creativity and flow state,
Hmm. Hmm.
because that's what I do, and that, if I'm not in nature, out training, running, bicycling, I don't swim as much because once I realized how bad the chlorine was, I could cut back on my swimming, because I don't have a natural pool to swim in.
Yeah.
But
Yet.
outside of those, that's where I get a lot of inspiration from. Like when I run, it's to be in nature and to, I take my shirt off, run, I'm half naked when I'm out there running, taking in natural light. It's another reason I like Arizona is because we have a lot of
Hmm.
nice running days. But if I had a notepad and I don't connect to, I don't even take a cell phone with me. I don't like
Oh no.
technology on me.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
run, just be in nature, right? However, that's when all of these ideas and it translates into the space that I'm talking about, what I want to create too, right? Because then you're like you got a lot of movement going on, you're kicking out a lot of endorphins, and you're just in that natural space, and just all these ideas start flowing to you. So I wish I had a notepad at least when I'm running, because I get a lot of inspiration, and then I'll be like, oh, I got to remember that. And then I get back home and I forgot it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that it's really interesting, isn't it? Like, like that thing of having such an outdoor focus in your life as well, which keeps you really connected. But then
Yeah.
being able to, like you said, look, your office or your space is it's it could be a box. It doesn't the actual architecture of it doesn't matter so much as that it is filled with natural light,
Yeah.
and then beyond
In
that,
in the
it
elements, a
oh
natural theme going on in
yeah,
that box too,
exactly.
right?
You said
Yeah.
crystals, and you said like if you can create a space that carries some weight and some energy and
Yeah.
it motivates you to be in it and it gives you an opportunity, you feel and joy because you can
Yeah.
solve problems, which is a big thing. You
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
it's part of your validation of who you are on the planet is solving
Yeah.
problems. Um,
And I'm big into Chinese elements too.
yeah, exactly.
So,
So all
the
these
earth,
things, yeah,
metal,
yep,
fire,
fire,
water,
yep,
wood.
yep, yep.
Like you said, you have your Japanese garden out there, so you probably have some nice,
Oh yeah.
like those elements are pretty, having those elements are very grounding, so
Yeah,
that ties
yeah,
in an aspect of that piece too, is grounding.
absolutely. I think, like as I say, I try to work through with people, room by room in a home, as to what makes you feel what, where, and when. And
Mm.
you know that your office it's purposeful. It's like really purposeful, and that
That's,
brings you
that's,
joy.
it's the birthing room,
Yeah,
right?
and that
That's
brings
where
you
we go to give
joy.
birth.
Yeah. So, and
Yeah.
I've had, so many different answers to that question,
Yeah.
um, that it just gives people time to take pause and ask, what is it that makes something special? And when it is special, then why is it special and at what time? It's all contextual again. Yeah.
And when I say office, just to clarify,
Mm.
because I did earlier mention about being a type A, and
Yeah.
usually it's, you give up one addiction for another addiction, or if you're not training, you're working, right?
Yeah.
And for me, an office isn't work.
Oh,
What I do is not
doesn't
work,
work. No.
you
No.
know.
No.
So yeah, the office is just a place of creativity. Always
I
has, ever since I was a kid,
I'm a
you
bit the
know.
same as you with that. Like I go, um, for me, going into the studio is like time stands still.
Yeah, yeah, studio.
I love that.
I actually might
Yeah.
rephrase my office
Office
to a
to a
studio
studio.
space.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
To me,
That word's come up today. So,
it's a studio. I go, it's a place of discovery. It's a place um, of problem solving, which it gives you a certain, a number of dopamine hits and those kinds of things as well. And it's a place where you lose yourself. As I say,
yeah,
time stands still. You create things. Um, I yeah, like one of certainly one. I wouldn't say that it's my most favorite space in my home, but my office is at home or my studio is at home. I don't have other people come to my studio. It's only mine. It's only for me. And that's got a wonderful feeling about it as well. And this matters, um, because it, it it's my domain, it's my thing. It's like I've got different shit everywhere, but different things, but it's my domain of that. Um,
yeah.
And yeah, I find it fascinating just to dig
Sacred
into what,
space.
yeah, it is. It's
Yeah,
like, it's part den, part, uh, workspace. I
yeah.
podcast from it. I draw from it. I make phone calls from it. I do, any computer
It's a
work I do
it's a
here.
power. It's a powerful space.
Yeah. I often
Yeah,
think that in a home, if you're a work from home person, then don't underestimate the value that you put on that space, because it's actually the financial engine that's running things as well. And forget just the financial, it's the joy engine that brings you joy as
yeah.
well. And, so like
Hmm.
and like you said, it's like not going to work. I always say to clients, um, design's easy. Like the design isn't actually the part here that matters. What really matters is you and me. And so if it's you as a couple and me, then if we can't make magic, then we're the wrong mix, because
Yeah,
we're going to be in bed together for a year or two, and so in that time we're going to learn a lot about each other,
yeah,
and
yeah.
we want to see the foundation of the human, not the facade. And are we going to enjoy our journey? Because if we're not, you have to live in what I leave behind.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
It's very intentional,
yeah, absolutely. The people is
yeah, yeah. And we draw those people in,
yeah,
like even myself, like,
yeah,
I know exactly within probably minutes
yeah.
who, you know, who I'm
Me
dealing
too.
with,
Me too.
Yeah.
Man, I so appreciate all the knowledge you've shared. And I really, like for people who are listening to the podcast, please write in. Um, we're going to drop all Brian's details, everything, so you can get a hold of Brian. You can go and live in Arizona in his community. Um,
Element. We call it the element, by the
the
way.
element, I like that.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
element. So yeah, um, and if you want some knowledge or you need some consulting or anything like that, like reach out. I'll either connect you with Brian or you can
Yeah,
connect directly with him. Um,
for sure.
Man, a wealth of knowledge, and
Yeah.
the rabbit holes we still have to go down in
Oh,
life is many.
yeah, we barely even skimmed the surface. We kind of we jumped around. We talked a little bit about lighting,
A
and
a little bit.
a
Yeah.
little bit of this and that, but we can definitely go deep into the topic. So if
Yeah.
your audience wants to kind of hear more specifics, we can get back together again
We
and
will
kind of
do
dive
that.
deeper,
We'll do that, and
So
it would be good to do that even with like a combo of people, you and Zara, you and Paula, people
oh
like that.
yeah,
That
God,
would be fun.
I love sitting on a panel,
That would
and
be
just
fun.
building energy off of each other and kind of sharing, everybody's perspectives together. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. I
All
love the
right.
fact that yours is a very practical perspective as well because you build it.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah. You actually make
exactly.
sure it's not just a drawing and a theory. It
Mm-mm.
actually stands up at the end of the day, and
And
that
it's
I
how we
appreciate.
build it.
Yeah.
It's how we build it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool,
Awesome,
man.
Adrian.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yes.
I really appreciate it. And we will talk soon, buddy. Thank you for tuning into our conversation. I hope it left you both informed and inspired. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen. And please don't hesitate to share your design thoughts with me. It's always a joy to hear from you. If you're like me and crave a deeper dive into design thinking, coupled with a love for travel and adventure, consider one of my architectural adventures. Join me and some of my wonderful design friends and embark on a journey of a lifetime. Apply for an unforgettable design experience at adrianramsay.com. With our clients spanning the globe, I firmly believe behind every great project are great people. If you're a great person and seeking to turn your dream into a reality, I'd be honored to design your home with you. Why not join the ranks of our exceptional clients and let's make your heart sing? Reach out to me at studio@ardesignhouse.com. That's studio@ardesignhouse.com, and let's get a conversation going and make your heart sing.